All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Week in Review. Back after not being here last week. I do apologize. It was my mother's birthday, and I had to go visit her for that. And I was going to try to get a pre-record on Friday, but we had decided we got to leave early. And so I really didn't have time to sit down for, 2 or 3 hours and put the show together and then record it and set it up and everything else. So I apologize. Tried to do it on Sunday. I was going to try and come home a little bit early on Sunday, but that didn't happen as well. So sorry. I did say when I started this that, I still got to have my weekends, but here I am, and we'll get the ball rolling again. This should be, I always say should be a little bit shorter of a show. We're going to try and go to the Renaissance Festival today with some friends, but the weather's not looking too great in Florida, so we'll see what happens with that. But welcome to the show. Got a lot to talk about. Got some news stories that popped up yesterday, so we'll get to those as well towards the end of the show. The Jasmine Crockett story is freaking nuts, man. Her security guard, I guess, got killed by Dallas SWAT yesterday. And more importantly, who the hell was this guy? We'll get into that. But let's go ahead and get started with the show. We'll talk about our first sponsor of the show. Guys, most of you know that I have believed in precious metals for a long time, especially silver. I've said that over and over and over again, but whether you lean silver, gold, or both, the issue right now is purchasing power. And that's the part that people miss. Everything costs more: groceries, utilities, insurance. And that same retirement money does not stretch like people think it does. A lot of retirement accounts are still tied completely to paper assets, stocks, bonds, dollars. And that's fine until your purchasing power keeps getting chipped away year after year. It's called inflation. Then people realize they're more exposed than they thought. And that's why some people look at gold and silver inside their retirement accounts, not to trade, not to speculate, but just to diversify a portion and reduce risk. If you want to understand how gold and silver IRAs actually work, the rules, the structure, what you can and can't do, there's a company called Augusta Precious Metals that focuses on education first. No hype, no pressure. They're going to teach you what you can and can't do. This stays inside of your IRA or 401k. No taxes, no penalties. You're not moving everything. You're just learning how all of this works. If you want to dig into it, click the link in the description below, or you can text CANCON, CANNCON, to 35052. Again, you can text CANCON to 35052 to get your free gold and silver IRA guide. Get informed first, and then decide what makes sense for you. And again, guys, huge proponent of silver. I cannot recommend it enough. And let me go ahead and throw that banner up there for a little bit. You can help support the show, and you can diversify your retirement and other savings. And there we go, man. Silver, I think it's up. Let's see. I know when I got into silver, it was around 21. It's up now around, I think it's at 90. Let's check the prices. Let's check the price of silver real quick. I don't even look at it because for me, it's a full-blown investment. It's it's a long-term thing. So I don't concern myself with the nuance, put silver at and everything. $81. So it took a little bit of a dip. So opportunity, right? Took a little bit of a dip. It was on Friday, it was at 85. And this week it hit a high of 90. So there you go. A little bit of a buying opportunity right there. I don't see it going down, but again, this is not financial advice. So, all right. And let's see what's going on in the chat. Good to see you guys. Howdy, Elwood from Northwest Arizona. I heard there was heat warnings in Arizona, but I'm sure that's south, like Phoenix and Yuma, Tucson. I think Tucson's for South Arizona. I've never been to Tucson. I've been to Yuma. I've been to Phoenix. I've been to Sedona. Is it Sedona that's up in the mountains? That place was beautiful. Man, that place was absolutely gorgeous. We took a 2-day trip up there when we were doing some work in Arizona. I had Christy with me, and we took a little little hike up north and saw the Grand Canyon and went through that little town. Such a cool little town, man. Beautiful mountain views, scenery, absolutely gorgeous. Miss Watley, good to see you. SoCal has record heat incoming. CJ Cam. Damn. Super Buff Shaft, good to see you. Sup, peeps? Trump won. Sure did. All right. Let's jump into the news. Again, if you want to diversify your retirement, help support the show, you can text CanCon to 35052. No commitment, just learning. Get your free guide. Let's dig into it. Here we go. Unfortunately, we start the show on a somber tone here. All crew members now have been confirmed in the KC-135 that crashed in Iraq, confirmed as dead. CENTCOM put out all 6 crew members aboard the U.S. KC-135 refueling aircraft that went down in western Iraq are now confirmed deceased. The aircraft was lost while flying over friendly airspace on March 12th for Operation Epic Fury. The circumstances of the incident are under investigation. However, the loss of the aircraft was not due to hostile or friendly fire, and the identities are being withheld until everybody can be informed. And again, this is, a really tragic one right here, because I don't know how this happens. A KC-135 refueling aircraft, and apparently there was another aircraft that was involved that they made contact, I guess, in air. And I can't for the life of me figure this one out. I guess accidents happen, but what are 2 KC-135s doing close enough to each other that they can make contact like that? And you can see in the images that have been kind of circulating around, unconfirmed images, but they've been circulating around and showing that it looks like the tail fin and the vertical stabilizer were clipped. And, looks pretty clean, to be honest with you, but especially the stabilizer, that's the one that goes like a rudder. It looks like just clean cut across. So I don't know. Again, very tragic situation. Let's get into the Iran war, because we've got some things both over in Iran and stateside that we should talk about. We've also got Israel. Looks like they might have gone a little rogue again in some of their actions, so we'll talk about that right here off the rip. President Trump also talking about putting down narratives, right? When the Mockingbird media tries to put something out, he is now extinguishing that like at the cyclic rate, just going right in there and just taking it away. So CNN put this out on the 7th. So that was on last Friday. Israel strikes Iranian oil shortage sites in next phase of war. Israeli sources say the Israeli military said it struck fuel sites in Tehran on Saturday evening that distribute fuel, quote, to various consumers, including military entities in Iran. Quote, this is a significant strike that constitutes an additional step in deepening the damage to the military infrastructure of the Iranian terrorist regime, the IDF said in a statement. Now, look, I understand going after the missile sites and everything else, but when you start messing around with the oil in Iran, when you start messing around with the oil infrastructure, you are doing long-term damage, perhaps permanent. Long-term damage, though, that is going to be really difficult to build back and undo, and is going to really kind of shake up the entire world a little bit here in terms of energy production and distribution and all that stuff. And, I don't think the United States, I believe, is showing restraint in attacking those types of targets, right? We're going after the military targets, allegedly. All of this is alleged because, we're still completely under fog of war. None of us have security clearances to figure out what's actually going on in any of these, but, oh man, one person, one vote says 3 of the crew were from Ohio. That's tragic. They haven't released names yet that I've seen. Maybe this morning. I didn't check this morning. Well, I did check this morning, but that's what I got this morning. So, but getting back into this, I just don't know. Again, I said 2 weeks ago when this all kicked off, the morning it kicked off, I said, man, it sure looks like Israel jumped the gun on this, and the Leroy Jenkins model. And I still stand by that. I think Marco Rubio came out and confirmed it, and then President Trump walked it back, because you can't just throw them under the bus at this point. And regardless of what you think about the Israeli government, I'm not a fan of them whatsoever. I am incredibly critical of both Gantz, well, Netanyahu first and foremost, but Gantz, everybody else in that administration, and even the opposition that is still clamoring for this war with Iran. I'm avidly against a lot of what what they do, but um, you still can't abandon them as an ally, whether or not you believe they're allies. We JB was on SitRep with us, and I asked him, name 3 things that they've done for the United States that would kind of solidify their alliance with us. What have they done to strengthen that alliance in terms? I mean, we just came off a 20-year war. Where were they? I served in this war. I was over there. I was on Camp Leatherneck. I went over to different factions or different NATO factions and different countries that were involved in the war. We could go freely about. They had a bus that would take you around the base. It's huge. And you would see, people getting on the bus all the time with different patches, and you'd be like, "Oh, what country is that?" "Oh, I'm from Jordan." "Oh, I'm from Australia." "Oh, I'm from England." And we would, talk and all that. Never saw an Israeli flag over there. So I posed that question and could not get an answer. And I that's one of the toughest questions to get an answer from. And they'll usually give you stuff like, "Oh, we share intelligence." Yeah, we share intelligence with a lot of countries. I mean, we have Five Eyes for a reason, right? So that's not, to define them as our greatest ally. Now, I'm not saying they weren't an ally and that they haven't been an ally. Again, not excluding, conversations about the USS Liberty and a lot of these other things. I'm with you guys. Miss Watley says, "Why do we have to fight Israel's war?" I am 100% with you. I also am moving more and more towards the position that Trump does have an ultimate goal here. I mean, I don't think I ever doubted that. We just don't know what it is. But I think it's starting to become a little bit more evident. That's what I should have said. I think it's starting to become a little bit more evident. So we have these attacks on the oil fields, and there's video flow online. Video, we can mute it. We don't need the volume here, but I mean, that is devastating right there. The amount of damage that is going to do, that will take years to rebuild some of this stuff. Years. So again, it is what it is. President Trump put this out on Saturday. Short-term oil prices will drop rapidly when the destruction of the Iran nuclear threat is over, is a very small price to pay for the USA and world safety and peace. Only fools would think differently. Well, I mean, I guess, again, he's not talking specifically about attacking the oil fields. What does he say? The Iran nuclear threat. He says it right there. He doesn't say the Iran oil threat, the energy threat, the distribution threat. He doesn't say any of that stuff. He says the Iran nuclear threat. This is the day after CNN reports on that. And so I think that's kind of interesting. We're seeing a lot of propaganda from the mainstream media, a metric shit ton of propaganda. Start with this story here from NBC News. Trump has privately shown serious interest in U.S. troops in Iran. Again, I really, really hope that this is not something that we have to pivot to in this war. I really hope, because not only, I mean, look, I'm looking at this from a couple different standpoints. First and foremost, the perspective that I have of going into a war where we were lied to about the war. And I'm not saying Trump's lying to us about the war, but we were lied to about Iraq and Afghanistan. And still, a lot of us signed up. A lot of us went over there, did our thing. And, can't take away from anybody that was, on the ground over there. They signed up for the right reasons. All of us wanted to defend our country and everything else. And we just didn't realize at the time that we were fighting the CIA's war. We were fighting, especially in Afghanistan, we were fighting a war for poppy fields, for drug trade. And it is what it is, but that doesn't take away anything from the guys that were on the ground. But I still don't want to see this, continue in Iran, or at least begin in Iran with the ground troops. But I also don't think Trump has any intention whatsoever of doing this. So it says here, President Donald Trump privately expressed interest in deploying U.S. troops on the ground inside of Iran, according to 2 U.S. officials, a former U.S. official and another person with knowledge of the conversations. Trump has discussed the idea of deploying ground troops with aides and Republican officials outside of the White House while outlining his vision for a post-war Iran in which Iran's uranium is secure and the U.S. and new Iranian regime cooperate on oil production, similar to how the U.S. and Venezuela are. To my knowledge, we don't have troops on the ground in Venezuela. And it's interesting there that they make that comparison between the U.S. and Venezuela and the U.S. and Iran, because Trump does the same thing on Monday. So this is a Saturday article, and on Monday, Trump will do the same thing, and we'll play that clip here in a moment. But it's interesting there. Even NBC is acknowledging the Trump formula, right? That's what Trump calls it, the formula on how to deal with these regimes. And I don't think it. I mean, I guess it involves boots on the ground in Maduro's case, where they, briefly they briefly jump in, they get him out, and then they're back home, right? Nobody was killed on our side. Nobody was killed. We saw the Medal of Honor recipient at the State of the Union, the chief warrant officer that was flying one of the Chinooks. So again, I don't think, anybody that doesn't believe that we don't already have Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC, and special operators on the ground in Iran, I understand. There's no question in my mind that we have, forward operating special forces on the ground, calling in these airstrikes, doing reconnaissance, that kind of stuff. There's no doubt. But, these guys aren't walking around in military uniforms. These are guys that are walking around in civilian attire. They're embedded in the culture of Iran. They probably, you wouldn't even recognize them if you saw them, that kind of thing. So that's no doubt. But what I'm talking about is, sending in a battalion of Marines, or sending in, a regiment of U.S. Army soldiers, that kind of thing. So hopefully we never get to that point. Hopefully. The president's comments focused on the idea of a small contingent of U.S. troops that would be used for specific strategic purposes. Again, I think we're already doing this. I think we already are doing this. Whether we have CIA operatives, which a lot of times are Navy SEALs, Green Berets, that kind of thing. They're working. The CIA has infiltrated our Special Operations Command. They work almost hand in hand. In fact, I'm pretty sure they have a joint base out in California, in Coronado. I'm almost positive the CIA, that's like known information, that the CIA is operating out of Coronado. Anyways, quote, this story is based on the assumption from anonymous sources who are not part of the president's national security team and are clearly not read into these discussions, says Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary. President Trump always wisely keeps all options open, but anyone trying to insinuate that he is in favor of one option or another proves that they have no real seat at the table. And then you jump down here, and in an interview with the New York Post last week, says this week, but it was last week, quote, I don't have the yips with respect to boots on the ground, he said. While other presidents have ruled out boots on the ground, I say probably don't need them, or if they were necessary. So again, a lot of this could be just based on Trump being brutally honest. If something did happen that absolutely necessitated that ground troops in Afghanistan, in Iran, then yeah, sure, it could possibly happen. But it's not something that they're actively thinking about. I mean, the U.S. military plans for every contingency that you could possibly imagine, buried somewhere in a vault or, in a database. They have a contingency for they have a contingency for alien attacks. They have a contingency for zombie outbreaks. I'm not kidding. There are contingencies for everything in the United States military. And to think that we don't have a contingency for ground troops going into Iran, kind of absurd. So we won't spend too much more time on that. Let's get into the Khamenei, or Khamenei. I learned that's how you say it, Khamenei. So I will do my best to pronounce it properly. Ali Khamenei's son, Mojtaba, chosen as Iran's new supreme leader. Here's the problem. Nobody's seen him. He has not made himself public in any way, shape, or form. So the new Ayatollah is allegedly Mojtaba's Ali Khamenei's son. We're going to unpack all this because I think Trump is, I think Khamenei might actually be the guy. I think he might be the guy. So at the press conference in Doral this week on Monday, I believe, President Trump says this.
Have to take him out? Does he have a target on his back?
You mean the new supreme leader? You mean the son?
How can there be in Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that, but I was disappointed because we think it's going to lead to just more of the same problem for the country. So I was disappointed to see their choice.
Okay. So on one hand, right there, President Trump says, I don't want to say whether or not I would do that. However, I'm disappointed. Okay, that's fair. I would be disappointed too. You have no idea the unknown, right? This is looking into the unknown. So I would be disappointed too. But then he says something else that's very, very interesting. Before we get to that clip, let's pull this one up here, or this article here. Khamenei was hurt in strike that killed his father. Iran's Cyprus ambassador confirms. Now, let me see if I can get this. Sometimes it takes away my highlights. There we go. Khamenei was injured in the 28th of February attack that killed 6 of his family members, including his father. Tehran's ambassador to Cyprus has confirmed. It says, quote, he was also there and he was injured in that bombardment, but I haven't seen that reflected in the foreign news, he told The Guardian. I have heard that he was injured in his legs and hand and arm. I think he's in the hospital because he is injured. Explaining why the cleric has not appeared in public or made any statements, quote, I don't think he is comfortable in any condition to give a speech. It was the 10th day of the holy month of Ramadan, said the ambassador, and Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was at his residence with several members of his family, including Muttaba's wife, Zahra, and his teenage son, Mohammed Bagher, who were also killed in the attack. Okay, so Alpha and I unpacked this on Thursday, and we both came to the same conclusion without, discussing it ahead of time. This makes no sense. You have The Guardian saying that the ambassador in Cyprus heard that Khamenei is alive and okay and recovering from injuries, but alive. You have RT, which is the Russian side of things, saying that they've heard he is okay. So nobody is actually proof of life, right? Nobody actually knows definitively that he's okay. And so to me, that's kind of strange. That's kind of strange. The other thing that is incredibly strange about this is as these attacks are ongoing, first and foremost, we were told that Khamenei was in a bunker and they went after him in the bunker and they killed him and all his guards and everything else in the bunker. Now, at least The Guardian, grain of salt, is telling us that they were in the residence. They were in his house. And he was there with his family. That's the last thing you would do when attacks break out, is put your family with you. If you and you would separate Khamenei, Ali Khamenei, if he was even still alive. And I know, and I tend to lean his way, but I know Ghost believes that Khamenei died a while ago. He was in hospice. I think I can't remember exactly when Ghost, but months ago he was in hospice. And he's pretty old. Let me see how old he is. I think he was in his late 80s. How old is Ali Khamenei? I'm pretty sure he was in his late 80s. He was 86. Okay, so pretty close to 86. I guess it's more than half. So yeah, late 80s. Was 86 years old. So again, it's very possible that he was in fact in hospice and he was in fact dead before this. But again, let's assume he's alive, you wouldn't put both Khameneis in the same place. You wouldn't put the family in the same place, and you wouldn't be in the presidential complex, right? I mean, maybe, I guess they could have a bunker, I guess. So, perhaps that's what happened. But again, it's just very strange. So now let's get into the clip. And this to me is the most, significant clip probably of the day here. And this is President Trump, again, at Doral on Monday, taking questions from the press.
Thank you, sir. You've said you have someone in mind to be the new Iranian leadership, if not the Ayatollah's son. What are you looking for in that person? Are you looking at someone internal, given that you just said that their leadership has been
I like the
decimated and
idea
wiped
of, internal and eternal, come to think of it. But I like the idea of internal because it works well. I mean, I think we've proven that so far in Venezuela. We have a woman, Delcy, who has been, president of the country, very respected, she's doing a great job. And it's, no disruption. We had, as you remember, Iraq, where everybody got fired. The military got fired. The police got fired. The politicians got fired. There was nobody. And you know what they turned into? ISIS. And we don't want that. We don't want that. So I would like to see people that are inside go. Now they talk about the son of the Shah. They talk about other people, but, hasn't been there in many, many years. We have a formula that's been very good so far, and I think it'll continue to be good. The relationship is extraordinary with Venezuela, smart country. We've taken out 100 million barrels of oil. It's right now in Houston being taken care of.
Okay, so we can kind of pause there for a second. So last week, we saw CNN came out and said that the CIA is going to work with the Kurds on the ground. They're going to be our ground force. This is what was reported, the CIA, because now apparently we're in an age of announcing CIA operations, right? We found, so again, wow, this just dawned on me. Compare this to what we saw in Venezuela. Remember, before we went in and did the Maduro raid, we got the report that the CIA was working with, I don't think they specifically said SEAL Team 6, but the CIA was working with the Navy SEALs. The Navy SEALs were on the ground designating targets, and the CIA was striking the targets, which to me is ass backwards. The CIA should be on the ground designating targets, and the SEALs should be hitting those targets. The U.S. Navy, the U.S. Air Force should be hitting those targets. But it was ass backwards. But we got that information. That was reported, right? President Trump, months before that, going back, says the CIA is, going to be operating in Venezuela. Like, he's broadcasting this. We're seeing a level of transparency with the CIA that we've never seen before. Now, is that part of the white hats versus black hats inside the CIA? Could very well be. Could very well be. But coming out and saying that about Venezuela was very interesting. So then we get the CNN report that the CIA is training up Kurds. Well, Trump shot that down. Trump shot that down and said, no, we're not working with the Kurds. We're not going to send the Kurds in. They don't really want to do it. We don't want them to do it. We've left the Kurds high and dry before. Syria, other places. We've left the Kurds high and dry before. So he doesn't want the Kurds going in there. And here's the other reason. The Kurds are not the replacement for this regime. They make up a small fraction of the Iranians, and Iran would not, I don't believe, Iran would get behind leadership that is not a majority of the country. Like, imagine if, in the United States, we were like, we're going to hand the country. Well, I mean, we don't have kind of the warring factions as much as they do in Iran. We have, obviously we're a melting pot, but we don't have nearly that same breakup. But imagine if, somebody came out and said, we're going to hand the country over to the Venezuelans, Trinidad Agua. Although I don't want to compare the Kurds to a Venezuelan gang, although could be, for all we know, it could be. The way the mainstream Mockingbird media and the CIA talk about the Kurds, who knows? But you get what I'm saying, though. Like, if we had, as an American culture, if we had a foreign culture that makes up, 10%, 12% of the population, and somebody was, trying to overthrow a dictatorship in our country, and they came in and said, well, we're going to do it with 12% of the country, and that's who's going to rule you, we'd be like, oh, fuck no. Hell no. And so, this made absolutely no sense when this happened. Now, what Trump says here is interesting. I want to listen to it again, because I really do think that this is probably one of the more interesting parts of this press conference.
Thank you, sir. You've said you have someone in mind to be the new Iranian leadership, if not the Ayatollah's son. What are you looking for in that person? Are you looking at someone internal, given that you just said that their leadership has been
I like the idea
out?
of, internal and eternal, come to think of it. But I like the idea of internal, because it works well. I mean, I think we've proven that so far in Venezuela. We have a woman, Delcy, who has been, president of the country, very respected, she's doing a great job. And it's, no disruption. We had, as you remember, Iraq, where everybody got fired. The military got fired. The police got fired. The politicians got fired. There was nobody. And you know what they turned into? ISIS.
again, so he alludes to Venezuela with Delcy Rodriguez. Delcy Rodriguez was Maduro's vice president. It is the same regime. It is fundamentally the same regime. Okay. So that makes very little sense that he talks about the formula for Venezuela. We have the formula and then pivots to Iran and says, we don't want to create a vacuum. You know what happened when we fired everybody in Iraq? ISIS rose up. We created a vacuum, and a vacuum can be filled with anything. And so ISIS rose up. Now, was that what he stopped with the CIA and the Kurds? Maybe. The Kurds are a tool to take out the regime without putting U.S. interests at risk, U.S. troops at risk. And then it creates the vacuum, removes the clerical, the Ayatollah and the clerics completely. Maybe completely. I mean, obviously factions will remain, but then you're able to implant your own regime. And usually that's a Western backed, regime. Now let's get into Pahlavi. Well, I'm not going to, let me see if I could find the clip. I'm sorry. I didn't have this set to specifically where he's talking, but let me see. I think it's about here. I'm trying to use my brain to remember where exactly it was. But so this is Reza Pahlavi. He is the Shah's son. All right. The Shah was, in power there from I think 1950. It was after the 1953 coup that the CIA orchestrated to throw out Mossadegh. His father, what was his name? Mohammed. No, that's, I don't know. His dad's name. I can't remember. Pahlavi is all I know him as. Was in power from 1954-ish to 1979 when, the Ayatollah was overthrown. So, or the overthrew him, excuse me. This is what he said the other day.
Potential. Before the revolution, Iran worked closely with Arab leaders, from King Faisal to Sheikh Zayed to King Hussein to President Sadat. In Oman, my father helped Sultan Qaboos defend his country against insurgency. We were true partners then. We will be true partners again. The Iranian people have called on me to lead the transition after the regime is gone. I have accepted that responsibility. Part of their great mandate to me is to return our nation and our foreign relations to normalcy. I will do exactly that.
I, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know that there's been an election in Iran. So where is he saying? He didn't say that they elected him. They said the people of Iran have chosen me. Well, how many people? 5, 10, 100, 1,000? How many people have chosen you? This sounds very much like Maria Corina Machado, right? Anybody else seeing that? Anybody else making that comparison with what he says right there? Well, let's go through the history of Pahlavi a little bit right here. In October 23rd, 2024, and again, that is a very I didn't catch that until just now. October 23rd is a very interesting day. That is a very significant anniversary. October 23rd. Can anybody tell me what October 23rd that is involved, that Iran is involved with? Can anybody tell me what the anniversary of October 23rd it represents? In relation to, I should say, in relation to Iran. Let's see. I got to get the Jeopardy clock. The delay kind of sucks. I wish there wasn't a delay. Iran does have a president, Pezeshkian, although he does not have very much power. And you know what? That's a good point, Sheikha G. Maybe Pezeshkian is the guy that they're going to talk about. Maybe that's who Trump is talking about instead of Khamenei. That could be, very well could be. That's a good point. It very well could be Pezeshkian. He has been a little bit more moderate in terms of, the zealous theocracy. He's been a little more moderate, but yeah. Okay, so I just put time's up. Doot 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 dun dun dun. October 23rd is Beirut, Lebanon. October 23rd, 1983. Also the day that I got to my unit, which was 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, which was the Beirut Battalion. It was our guys that got hit the hardest in that day. Yeah, so here's the story. Iran's exiled prince receives Nixon Foundation Architect of Peace Award. And I found this when I was looking up, when I was on, I think it was with Ghost maybe, and we were talking about this. And I said, well, I wonder if, if the globalists have done anything to kind of reinforce this guy's credentials, right? Have they done anything to make this guy look more desirable and lucrative in the minds of Western democracies? And that right there would be an indicator. The exiled son of the late Shah of Iran, Prince Reza Pahlavi, received the Nixon Foundation's Architect of Peace Award at a ceremony in California Tuesday evening. There's no one I stand more proudly side by side with than the people of Iran today, and I will stand with them until victory. I mean, this is a fucking color revolution. He is the revolutionary that the globalists want to put in the power there. The award recognized his advocacy for human rights and peaceful change in Iran after protests since 2022 were met with violence by authorities. During his speech, Pahlavi described his commitment to ensuring a transition from authoritarian rule to a secular democratic government. I will work tirelessly to oversee and ensure that Iran undergoes a peaceful and secure transition to a secular democracy, one where every citizen can live as equals, free from any form of discrimination. So let's get into who Pahlavi is. And Pahlavi did a kind of like a TED Talk kind of thing with an organization called the Think Global School. The Think Global School. So we have a globalist. I mean, if it sounds like, if they call him the Global School, probably a globalist. Born in Tehran on October 31st, 1960. Left at the age of 17. So 1977, he fled Iran, and has not been back since. All right. The other thing, and JB actually brought this up on SitRep last week, not last week, the week before. The other thing, Pahlavi was brought into, his father was brought into Iran, Farah. No, that's the late Shah of Iran. Doesn't say the Shah's name. Anyways, France brought the Shah in 1977 to replace Mossadegh, not Mossadegh, brought Pahlavi. Excuse me, my mind is not working on that right now. Pahlavi left Iran at the age of 17 for Air Force training. For Air Force training, you left Iran in 1977 to go train in the Air Force. He has a degree in political science from the University of Southern California. Oh, imagine coming over to the United States and saying, hey, guys, I want you to elect a president that has been educated at the University of Tehran or the University of Simon Bolivar University in Venezuela, or, name a Hong Kong university. Like, how do you think the American people would respond to that? If we brought a foreign educated, well, we can't even have, he's not foreign born, but if we brought an American citizen that was educated overseas in a hostile nation that's currently bombing us, yeah, that's nuts. He completed United States Air Force training. Pahlavi travels the world meeting with heads of state, legislators, policymakers, interest groups, and student groups. Student groups, that is a red flag for Gladio type operations and CIA operations and color revolutions. Student groups, the most easily manipulated groups out there. Student groups. Speaking about the plight of Iranians under the Islamic regime in Iran since the fraudulent elections of 2009. I love it. I love it. Globalists calling every election fraudulent except for the 2020 election in the United States of America, where widespread fraud has been documented. But in Iran in 2009, totally fraudulent. Putin, totally fraudulent. Maduro, Chavez, totally fraudulent. Every election is fraudulent when they don't have the power over the election. Every election, when it's not their person that won, it's fraudulent. But 2020, safest, most secure election ever, despite universal mail-in ballots, $440 million injected by a tech CEO. Yeah. Pahlavi's singular message of solidarity and unity for a secular and democratic Iran has taken on a new air of urgency. The globalist. He married Yasmin Edmond Amini. Yasmin is a graduate of the George Washington University School of Law with a doctorate in jurisprudence. Got a JP. She's got a JP from Georgetown University. There's no way Pahlavi will be the man. There's no way. He is a poster child for CIA-led color revolutions. He is what's the guy from Georgia, the country Georgia that was the president? I can never remember his name. Saakashvili. Is Saakashvili? He was the president of Georgia. He was over here educating in Yale. By the way, Maria Corina Machado, Yale. She didn't go to Yale and get a degree. She went to like their globalist working camp, right? Like an indoctrination camp at Yale. Met with George Bush. So did Saakashvili. I think I'm saying that name right. Then where does Saakashvili end up? When they kick him out of Georgia, when they have a reverse color revolution in Georgia and they throw his ass out, he ends up as the governor of Odessa, Ukraine, one of the key governorships in that country. These color revolutions, man, you want like, we'll have to get Colonel Towner on this show here, on my show here soon to talk about these revolutions, because we're watching one right now. We're watching President Trump counter the color revolution narratives with his own formula, not regime change, not outright regime change, just the destruction of the deep state that surrounds it. Maria Corina Machado, Hakuna Matata, is completely and totally irrelevant in Venezuela right now. Pahlavi is grasping for relevancy in Iran, and he's not getting it. President Trump says in that speech, well, I don't know, he hasn't been there for a long time. That's exactly what he said about Hakuna Matata, that she hasn't been there in a very long time. Well, I mean, Pahlavi, I think, is in his 60s now. How old is Reza Pahlavi? How old is Reza Pahlavi? I think he's in his 60s. I want to say 65. 65 years old. So since he was 17, so it's been 48 years since he's been to Iran. Okay. So let's jump into this story. This kind of pivots to, when I said we started the show off talking about Israel hitting the oil fields. Makes no sense. Stupid move, in my opinion. Again, it's absurd to think that I have any of the knowledge that both Trump and Netanyahu have, but in my opinion, it's absurd to go that route. A lot of people are saying, well, the U.S. only gets about 3% of its oil from Iran. Sure. But a lot of other countries get a lot of oil from there. And those countries, China, Russia, I mean, they're not adversaries. I do believe in the sovereign alliance. I do believe that President Trump would not deliberately try and decimate China's economy. I think we're very much dependent on it. We learned that during COVID. 96% of our pharmaceuticals are made in China. We learned that during COVID. And yes, I understand the fentanyl and everything else, but at the same time, are you going to cut your nose off to spite your face and try and decimate China's industry when we're not ready to be self-sufficient, self-sustaining? So Times of Israel put this out. Trump to Times of Israel. It'll be a mutual decision with Netanyahu regarding when Iran war ends. Quote, I think it's mutual a little bit. We've been talking. I'll make a decision at the right time, but everything's going to be taken into account. He responded, indicating that while Netanyahu will have input, the U.S. president will have the final say. Asked whether Israel could continue the war against Iran even after the U.S. decides to halt its strikes, Trump declined to entertain the theoretical possibility before adding, I don't think it's going to be necessary. So that's interesting. Colonel McGregor was on with Tucker Carlson saying that we need to be looking for an off-ramp. I do agree with that. We need to find an off-ramp on this. We do. But again, we'll see. It's absurd for us to think that we have any more knowledge. All we can do is kind of speculate. President Trump also said on Monday, so again, maybe the strikes end sooner than we thought.
They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. It's all been blown up. They have no radar. They have no telecommunications. And they have no leadership. It's all gone. So, you could look at that statement. We could call it a tremendous success right now as we leave here. I could call it, or we could go further, and we're going to go further. But the big risk on that war has been over for 3 days. We wiped them out in the first 2 days. When you think about it, it's incredible. We wiped out a big Navy, very powerful Navy. These were ships. These were serious ships. These were ships that you buy when you want to win battles. They're all on the bottom floor. The sailors are all running off their ships. They refuse to get on the ships. The Air Force is gone. Everything's gone. The missiles are down to a trickle. The drones are down to probably 25%, and they'll soon be down to nothing. We'll have where they manufactured the drones are under fire as we speak. They're being hit. So the rest is going to be determination as to my attitude, along with the people in the Trump administration, what we want to do.
We sure are spending a lot of time in the media covering a war that President Trump is saying they have no army, or they have no Air Force, they have no Navy. They can't compete. They can't compete. So what are we doing? Who knows what we're doing? We'll see. We'll see. I'm going to call an audible here because I thought this was kind of interesting. President Trump did an interview, I think it was last night or yesterday, maybe it was Thursday night, with Brian Kilmeade on Fox News. And President Trump was not too happy with one of the questions. I mean, he stops short of calling Brian Kilmeade a retard. Just straight up telling you. Here we go. Check this out.
Now, here in 2026, you are president. Are you thinking about taking Karg Island, where 90% of the Iranian oil goes through? And what do you think about? Do you remember that interview and that school of thought?
Yeah, but Brian, I can't answer a question like that. You shouldn't ask it. You shouldn't be even asking it. It's one of so many different things. It's not high on the list, but it's one of so many different things. And okay, I can change my mind in seconds. But, if he had asked a question, who would answer a question like that? I mean, you're asking me a question, Karg Island, okay, everything. Who would ask a question like that? And what fool would answer it, okay? Let's say I was going to do it, or let's say I wasn't going to do it. What would I tell you? Oh, yes, Brian, I'm thinking about doing it. Let me let you know what time and when it'll take place. It's not, it's sort of a foolish question. A little surprising for you because you're a smart man.
I am, but you were just pretty amazing that you thought about it in 1988. So
he stopped shy of calling him a retard. He gives him a compliment at the end. You're a pretty smart man, which Kilmeade is like, yes, I am. I am a smart man. Smart enough to know to ask you about military strategy on the largest conservative news network out there. That don't make much sense. So this, when I heard this morning, when I saw this morning, the first thing I thought of was, well, first, Kilmeade clearly got the pee-pee slap right there, right? President Trump gave him the pee-pee slap. That is for sure. When I heard that this morning, I kind of thought about when I was at Mar-a-Lago in April, I think, of 2024. I was there for the John Eastman event. President Trump was also there. That's probably the coolest experience in terms of, I was in a room in one of the ballrooms with maybe 40 or 50 other people. And President Trump came in. We didn't know he was going to be there. Viva Fry was hosting the panel. And I was in the back. I was with Rachel Alexander, had invited us to tag along. And I was in the back, small little panel that they were doing on lawfare and everything. And President Trump walked in, and Viva Fry, stopped the panel and was like, "Ladies and gentlemen, President of the United States." And I was on the perimeter. They had kind of a little velvet rope around him. And I mean, maybe 20 feet away, to the point where I was filming it on my phone and was giving him the thumbs up, gave me the thumbs up back. Pretty cool moment. Sorry, I'm going off because that was one of the cooler things that I've seen. I would love to have a conversation with President Trump. That would be absolutely fascinating. But anyways, so before that, I was hanging out in kind of one of the restaurant areas. Well, not the restaurant, but I don't know what you would call it. The foyer. I don't know. But I was hanging out there and we were asking questions of somebody. I don't want to say specifically. I don't want to say specifically who it was. Oh, Liberty Line. Yes, I went live early today because I'm trying to go to the Ren Fest this afternoon. So I had to go live early. Anyways, I'm going off on these tangents, man. I apologize. So all these people were asking questions, and they're these boring, kind of milquetoast questions. And, and I came in and I was like, what's your position on, and I prefaced it with a story, but what's your position on the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act? And this person, who I know damn well knows exactly what the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act is, pretended like he didn't know. And I explained it to him. And he said, no, I don't think that's what it says. And I was like, well, I mean, what's your position on it? He's like, don't try and sound smart. I got the pee-pee slap. And I was like, that's very interesting. Now, the difference between asking about the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act of this person in private and asking on air about military strategy, totally different things. And Kilmeade was absolutely out of line asking about specific military strategy. Not something you do unless it's talking about it retroactively. If it's something that already happened, that's a little bit different. But I thought that was an incredibly boneheaded question from Brian Kilmeade. So now let's get into the fear-mongering from the Mockingbird media. Speaking of the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, but before we get into this, and we are going to talk more about the FBI, I think there's an interesting story, and we talked about this on Daily yesterday, but we're going to get into it a little bit more today. I think there's an interesting story in that FBI shooting that took place in Michigan. But before we do that, guys, I do have to say, unfortunately, I'm going to shut down the X stream. I do this about the hour mark on each show. I am encouraging folks to go more towards Rumble, even YouTube. I did get monetized in YouTube, guys. That's pretty cool, huh? Oh, gotta mute that. I actually got monetized. I don't know if you guys, how that works. I probably have to go through and do some extra things, but I think you can give rants now, so I'm not sure. But anyways, or super chats. They call them super chats on YouTube. But anyways, I am going to shut down Twitter. Again, they got to integrate their API with Rumble and Rumble Studio. And so I apologize, but if you guys want, rumble.com/CanCon, I will put the link directly to the stream. I will put it directly in the Rumble stream. So if you guys just want to click over and jump on over to Rumble, again, I apologize, but got to grow my channels, and Twitter is not a conducive environment for that. Yet. It's getting there. Yet. So thank you for everybody that's listening on Twitter. We will continue on with the Mockingbird media and the fear mongering, and we got a lot more to talk about, probably another hour and a half at least. So see you guys over there. All right, and there it is, the Twitter nuke. The Twitter nuke. Sorry, man. I just wish, you know, that they had a better system set up. So this was Fox News earlier this week.
Meantime, an alarming report of threats outside Iran. ABC News reports Iran may be activating sleeper cells. Quote, the U.S. has intercepted encrypted communications believed to have originated in Iran that may serve as an operational trigger for sleeper assets outside the country. If true, further illustrating Secretary of State Marco Rubio's point, we are fighting a terrorist government.
The United States is currently engaged in an operation targeting one of the world's leading hostage taker, the world's leading sponsor of terrorism. They are trying to hold the world hostage. They are attacking their neighbors. They are attacking neighboring countries, their energy infrastructure, their civilian population. They're attacking embassies. This is a terrorist government. This is a terroristic regime. And we are seeing them conduct terrorism using nation-state elements, using weapons like missiles and one-way attack drones. And the objective of this mission is to destroy their ability to continue to do that.
But Iran's...
All right, so the fear-mongering persists. You know, say some things unsourced, and then go to a clip of Marco Rubio saying something completely different, but being the authoritative sources, the source with the no, it lends credibility to what they're saying, at least, or it offers credibility. And then follow it up a couple days later with another Mockingbird media report about the same thing. FBI warns Iran aspired to attack California with drones in retaliation for war. And then, you know, what's interesting is this report was immediately followed up, not on ABC, but on a smaller affiliate, that drones were stolen from an army base in, I think it was Kentucky. 4 drones stolen. $5,000 reward for the return of 4 stolen drones. And then, you know, I talked about this with I think Alpha, saying that it makes it sound like these were, you know, the big drones that they're flying into buildings and everything else. They weren't. They were the little like DJI Sky XD10, whatever drones, like, you know, that big, maybe could carry a grenade, you know, and still not disrupt the flight of the drone. So whether or not that was related, I don't know. Could be coincidence, could be whatever. But this is what ABC says. And let me see if I could bring back the highlights. There we go. Brought them back. Look at that. The FBI warned police departments in California that Iran could retaliate for American attacks by launching drones.
War in Iran, and now the FBI warning right here at home.
Shut up. I don't want to hear from you. That Iran could retaliate for American attacks by launching drones at the West Coast. Asked about the alert sent to California police, President Trump said that it's being investigated, but you have a lot of things happening, and all we can do is take them as they come, and the war itself is being prosecuted as well as anybody has ever seen. U.S. intelligence officials have grown concerned in recent months about the expanding use of drones by the Mexican drug cartels and the chance that the technology could be used to attack American forces. Now, this story has clearly been updated because my highlights are off, which means they added some words up here. They did. The quote, the document that ABC has reviewed says, quote, we recently required unverified information. That's what they did. That's what they did. They added it in. This is the first time I've looked at this article because I covered this article earlier in the week as soon as it came out, and they went back and they edited it. Hey, hat tip, man. Hat tip. The damage is done because the article was hot the first day, right? You write an article and it gets all its attention within the first, 12 hours or so, unless it's really good, like that Zero Hedge article on the economy and the government bloat. That was a fantastic article. But unless it's, really, really good article, it doesn't stick around for too long. Ephemeral experiences, in and out, a day, 2 days. And so them changing that and adding the unverified, we wouldn't have even known. If I didn't do the week in review, we never would have been able to go back and catch that word right there, unverified. So reading it says, quote, we recently acquired let's see what this looks like on the Wayback Machine. Let's do this real quick. Oh shit, my coffee's right there. Almost spilled coffee on my keyboard. I did, in fact. A little bit, not on the keyboard, but close. All right, let's go check out the Wayback Machine. Let's do this in real time and see what we got here. All right. So apparently I was looking at something for the great state of Wisconsin, the Branchin report. All right, so there's the ABC report. Here we go. And let's go back to the first day, the first snapshot of the ABC article. And let's see how it appears. Ah, there it is. There it is. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. This is the way it was originally written. We recently, we recently acquired information that as of early February 2026. How should it have been written? We recently acquired unverified information that as of early February 2026, in real time, keeping the mainstream Mockingbird media honest, propaganda, fear-mongering, leaving out the word unverified, giving false information. That is a substantial statement, ladies and gentlemen. That is the difference between something that you could use in court and something that you could not. And I'm not saying it specifically in this context, but generally, if you take unverified information in a courtroom, you're going to get laughed out of the courtroom because there's no substance to it. It's just hearsay. That's the same thing with this. So it says we recently acquired unverified information that as of early February 2026, which is before the attack, Iran allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack. Did they have allegedly? Did they have allegedly? Okay, they did at least have allegedly. Okay. Allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack against using unmanned aerial vehicles from an unidentified vessel off the coast of the United States homeland, specifically against unspecified targets in California in the event the U.S. conducted strikes against Iran. The fearmonger, right? Leave out the unverified sources, all that fun stuff. Now, this is not the first time that this kind of thing, is taking place, right? You go back to Operation Midnight Hammer, and we had this gem. Now, listen to the verbiage that they use in this clip.
Just in that Iran directly threatened America.
So Iran directly threatened America is the question. That's a very explicit question. Directly threatened America, not indirectly, not unverified sources. Iran directly threatened America? ?
Tonight, NBC News has learned that message from Iran was conveyed to President Trump by an intermediary during last week's G7 summit, warning.
Oh, so it was conveyed to President Trump last week during a G7 summit, meaning the top 7 economies in the globe. And it was conveyed to President Trump as hearsay from an intermediary. Which one of the G7 is having direct conversations with Iran? I don't think Russia was participating in the G7s. I thought they got removed. Who are the G7 nations? I don't think Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the United States. Russia joined in 1998, but was suspended in 2014 following its annexation of Crimea and officially left in 2017. So there we go. So Russia is out of the G8. Used to be the G8. Okay, so let's keep going.
The president, if he launched airstrikes against Iran's nuclear facilities, Iran could respond by unleashing terrorist attacks on the U.S. by activating sleeper cells it has inside this country, according to two U.S. officials, all as we learn new details about those historic strikes.
So again, you got a lot of hearsay, intermediaries, NATO nations that are telling us that somebody told them that somebody said that one time they wanted to go over here and they're going to What a load of shit, man. The fear mongering. Everybody got to keep that hostility going. Got to keep that, or the fear of the hostilities going. They're going to bring a ship and plant it off California and start hitting us with drones. Remember all the drones from before President Trump's election? We had these mysterious drones all over New Jersey. How long till that story resurfaces? And those were dry runs for the Iranian drones. I don't know. So the story that ABC changed, Caroline Leavitt may have influenced that change. This post and story should be immediately retracted by ABC News for providing false information to intentionally alarm the American people. They wrote that this was based on one email that was sent to local law enforcement in California about a single unverified tip. A single unverified tip. The email even states that the tip was based on unverified intelligence. Yet ABC News left out this critical fact in their story. Why? To be clear, no such threat from Iran to our homeland exists, and it never did. And this was the more interesting part. Jennifer Jacobs, CBS White House correspondent, went to bat for the White House in this. CBS, as Chris Paul said on Friday, the Ellison's new venture, right? The 60 Minutes, the debacle that they went through when they edited Kamala Harris's 60 Minutes interview to make her look a little bit more intelligent than she actually is. CBS coming to bat for the White House against ABC News. Jennifer Jacobs says multiple U.S. and state law enforcement and intel officials told CBS News there's no credible intelligence underpinning the bulletin distributed on the unverified possibility that Iran could retaliate for American attacks by launching drones at the West Coast. Quote, this is not actionable. California-based federal law enforcement told CBS. All this means is that we got this information and we want to get it out to law enforcement executives to make sure they're up to speed on it. Another California law enforcement official said, there's absolutely nothing more to it. The bulletin to local law enforcement by the FBI's Los Angeles division stemmed from an apparent tip that surfaced prior to the Iranian conflict. So why would you have put that out? Why would you have put that out after the conflict, after we've decimated their Air Force, decimated their Navy, decimated a lot of their critical military infrastructure, and you put it out after? As the war, President Trump said himself, is coming to a completion, the Mockingbird media is laying the groundwork, potentially, for an attack here, potentially a false flag attack, potentially something that would be reminiscent of a Pearl Harbor or a 9/11. Not that 9/11, I mean, we weren't at war at all, but that pushed us into war. False flag. Pearl Harbor, false flag. And again, just to be clear, because people start melting down over this, not you guys are educated. False flags do not mean the event did not happen. It means that what led up to the event was not what we were told. What we were told led to the event, is not what we were told. It's to push a particular action, a psychological act. It's a psychological operation to promote a psychological action. So be careful with this story. They are trying to push you. And again, one of the things I said when I started the show is that President Trump is getting out in front of these narratives before they can be deployed. ABC says, hey, there's actionable intelligence that drones are going to be attacking the United States. Caroline Leavitt comes out, dogs, ABC. ABC makes the correction. Jennifer Jacobs, CBS, comes out, dogs, ABC. Interesting. That is very interesting. President Trump came out and said this.
They try to hit us back. Have you been briefed about how many Iran sleeper cells there could be inside the U.S. right now?
I have been, and a lot of people came in through Biden with his stupid open border. So we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on all of them, I think.
Is it dozens?
They came in through the open border policies of Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst president in the history of our country. And we've got our eyes on all of them. But the war itself is being prosecuted at a level that nobody's seen before. It's pretty amazing to watch.
It's Friday.
All right, so we've got our eyes on all of them. We've got our eyes on all of them. That's a really bold statement to make. That's a confident statement right there, because that statement will live in infamy if one of these attacks actually does happen. It's almost as if President Trump knows something. That was very interesting. Let's go ahead and pause real quick here for a second and talk about a sponsor. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and talk about Rumble Wallet. All right, a little inside scoop that many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons that I'm using Rumble now. I've been using Rumble for a long time, but it's one of the reasons why I'm loving Rumble right now. They made a way to super chat creators so that we get paid immediately and without any fees. YouTube and Twitch take up to 50% fees when you tip creators. This method takes none. That's right. This platform takes zero fees. You keep nearly 100% of what you send into this program. You can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether, US dollars, even Tether Gold stable coins. The tip will show up directly to our Rumble chat, which I will always read. All you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and send the tips to your favorite creators. You can go to wallet.rumble.com, or you can download the app directly from the App Store. Seriously, what an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy grow. Shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. We love Rumble. I have been a longtime supporter of Rumble before it was cool, before when I was getting 50, 60 views. I saw what was happening with YouTube before I was kicked off of YouTube, and I looked for an alternative. I found Rumble, and I got on it, and then Bongino took a nice investment in it, and it started to grow from there, and I'm so happy. Do everything you can to support the folks on Rumble and Rumble itself. Thank you so much to Rumble. Thank you so much. Check that out. All right, let's get into some of the oil crisis. I thought this was hilarious. Is this the Leroy Jenkins one? Let me see. Is this the Leroy? So this is what's going on right now in the Strait of Hormuz, which is a huge, huge, huge major hub or pass through for oil. Global oil comes out of here. And, there was this big thing about, ships not wanting to go. You see the clusters right here, bottom left, and then right here around where is that? That is Duba al Fujara. You can see these ships all cluttered right there. And then when they start to go, they turn off their transponder. And just look at that. They go in there, they turn off their transponder, and then they here we go. They turn it on when they come out. They don't want anybody knowing where they are. It's a big ocean. Those look like big dots, right? They look like big dots in proportion to the size of the ocean, but they're not. They're not very big. The ships are not very big. So it's funny. There was one. Every once in a while, you'll see one Leroy Jenkins this across, and they just leave their transponder on the whole time and just go. So that brings us into the next story here. And CNN, once again, the propaganda wing of the left. Actually, they're not the propaganda wing. They're like the moderate propaganda wing. The left propaganda wing would be Politico and MS Now or MSNBC. They actually tried to get me to do an interview, MS Now, on Iran. And when I found out it was MS Now, I was like, yeah, no thanks. No thanks. You guys are going to put a spin on this, and no thank you. So yeah, here's the story from CNN. Iran begins laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, sources say. Written by, who's that right there? Who is that? Who that is? Natasha Bertrand. The notorious Politico 51 spies say Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation, a flat-out, bald-faced lie. They never said it is Russian disinformation. Their exact words were, the appearance of Russian disinformation, and it was all a ploy to go against President Trump. And Natasha Bertrand was she was like the equivalent of I don't know, like when you go out with your friends and you're looking for, you're cruising the bar scene for, the hotties, and it gets to like 3:00 in the morning and you're like, shit, man, I haven't gotten any girls. Well, there's that thing over there. Might as well, right? Got my beer goggles on. Might as well. That's Natasha Bertrand. That's what they said, guys. That's what they said. I'm not making this up. In the emails and the Hunter Biden, expose, they're like, oh, well, first we went to, I can't remember the outlets they went to. First we went to Reuters, maybe. Then we went to the Associated Press, and none of them wanted to take this story. So then we went to Politico. And they're literally like, we don't know why we went to Politico. We were just getting desperate. It was late at night, and we had our beer goggles on, and we just needed somebody that was dumb enough to run this story. And they ended up settling on Natasha Bertrand and Politico. And now she's writing more garbage for CNN. Here we have it. Iran begins laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Sources say. Well, President Trump slapped that shit down real quick. He says on X on March 10th at 4:07, this article came out March 10th. It doesn't say the time, but came out on March 10th. So in response, President Trump turns around and says, if Iran has put out any mines and we have no reports of them doing so, we want them removed immediately. If for any reason mines were placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences of Iran will be at a level never seen before. If, on the other hand, they remove what may have been placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction. Additionally, we are using the same technology and missile capabilities deployed against drug traffickers to permanently eliminate any boat or ship attempting to mine the Hormuz Strait. They will be dealt with quickly and violently. Be aware, President Donald J. Trump. Couple things here. Natasha Bertrand may or may well hold on. Let me finish this. Literally 13 minutes later, I am pleased to report that within the last few hours, we have hit and completely destroyed 10 inactive mine-laying boats and or ships, with more to follow. President Donald J. Trump. He is smacking down the narratives as quickly as they can come out. He's like a fly swatter, man. Another fly comes out. Beer Goggle Bertrand. That's what I'm going to start calling her. Beer Goggle Bertrand. The girl you go to at the end of the night when there's nobody viable. All the credible sources, outlets have left. And so you go to Politico and Bertrand. I don't know why. Direct quote. I don't know why. Anyways, President Trump's out there smacking down these. Now, here's the curious thing. If you go back and look at what President Trump said in his first post, okay? First, he's given Iran some kudos right here. He's saying if they remove what may have been placed, it'll be a giant step in the right direction. That's pretty cool. We're using and then he makes the threat. We are using the same technology and missile capabilities deployed against drug traffickers to permanently eliminate any boat or ship attempting to mine the Hormuz Strait. And then he takes out 10 inactive. He says specifically inactive mine-laying craft. Now, I mean, that could be, of course, he could be being a little bit vague in his reporting and what he's telling us, but he shot it down in 13 minutes. And he also issues a warning. So Bertrand is saying that they're putting these mines out. Is that seeding the idea? It could be. I don't put anything past that woman because of the bald-faced lie she told in the Politico piece in October of 2020. Is Russian spies, or former intel spies say it is Russian disinformation? Well, when you go out there and you say, hey, they're laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, sources say, are you telling them, hey, guys, start laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz? And President Trump's like, oh, hell no. We got that same tech. We're spying. We got the eye in the sky looking down on you. You better be careful if you try doing that shit. We're going to smack you down. Look, 13 minutes, we killed 10 of your boats. 13 minutes, 10 of your boats out of the ocean, blown away. And then he put the video out. Of destroying these ships. I'm there, man. Let's go. Maybe he'll deploy the Dolphins next, the mine-seeking Dolphins. All right, we also got this big post right here. America is returning to real energy dominance. Today, I'm proud to announce that America First Refining is opening the first new U.S. oil refinery in 50 years. Is that actually the name of it? America First Refining? Love it. Love it. It is opening the first new U.S. oil refinery in 50 years. That would be 1976. Good time to do it. Good time to do it. This is a huge, historic $300 billion deal, the biggest in U.S. history, a massive win for American workers, energy, and the great people of South Texas. Thank you to our partners in India and their largest privately held energy company, Reliance, for this tremendous investment. It is because of our America First agenda, streamlining permits and lowering taxes, that have attracted billions of dollars in deals coming back to our nation. A new refinery at the Port of Brownsville will fuel U.S. markets, strengthen our national security, boost American energy production, deliver billions of dollars in economic impact, and will be the cleanest refinery in the world. It will power global exports and bring thousands of long overdue jobs and growth to a region that deserves it. This is what American energy dominance looks like. America first, always. Now, this is when you bring in Indian money, India's Reliance coming in and funding this, are they just like a partner in this? I'm hoping that it's still predominantly American owned and, has American beneficiaries is, obviously it's going to be Americans working at the refinery, better be. So, I mean, those are good jobs, man. Like oil jobs, they're tough, but those are 6-figure plus jobs that are coming in. So, big move. I wish that we had an American-based company that could take this on entirely. But look at what our companies have been doing here in the United States. We outsource to other nations, right? We outsource the work to other nations. Well, this is an industry where they outsource. India's outsourcing to the United States, and they're doing so not because we're cheaper or we have cheaper labor. No. They're doing it because we have that resource and they need it. That's why they're doing it. And so that's a win-win for America. That is a pivot from us outsourcing to now us being the destination for outsourcing. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. That is a massive pivot. And let's see more of that. All right. And then we'll wrap up the Iran war talk with maybe the next step in this. And let's go ahead and play this clip here of Lindsey Graham being the warmongering pig that he is. This is actually not the worst thing, though. This is not the worst thing.
I'm not looking for a fair fight. If we get in a fight, I want to win it. I want to win it quick. I'm in Miami. You see this hat? Free Cuba. Stay tuned. Yep. The liberation of Cuba is upon us. It's just a matter of time now. You see this hat? Make Iran great. President Trump said the only way to make Iran great is for the people to take over. We're marching through the world. We're cleaning out the bad guys. We're going to have relationships with new people that will make us prosperous and safe. I've never seen anybody like it. This is Ronald Reagan plus. Donald Trump is resetting the world in a way nobody could have dreamed of a year ago. He is the greatest commander-in-chief of all time. Our military is the best of all time. Iran is going down, and Cuba is next. I'm not looking for.
I mean, again, I said this on Daily. I hate it coming from him, but it is kind of interesting. It is kind of interesting because we got this message from the dictator of Cuba, Miguel Diaz-Canel, came out and said, "Hey, the United States." This was yesterday. The United States is now negotiations actively with Cuba. So this is a guy that is from the Castro regime. He was handpicked by Raul Castro to take over Cuba. And we're in negotiations now to have bilateral relations with Cuba. I cannot stress to you guys how significant this will be for mainly Florida. Right? This is going to impact Florida hugely. And if he can actually open up Cuban markets, open up Cuban tourism, open up friendly passage of U.S. citizens and Cuban Americans to go to Cuba and visit their families, vacation, beautiful country, absolutely beautiful country. Man, that'll be a huge, huge win for President Trump. Something that's we've been trying to do since Kennedy. Well, Kennedy was more not Kennedy himself, but the CIA around him. This is the United States asserting its dominance in the Latin American region, in the Western Hemisphere. This is the United States emerging 90 miles off the coast of Florida, right? It's someplace, I said this yesterday on Daily. It's a place that, if you're in Florida, you could take a cruise down to Cuba. Like, Cuba's going to love this, by the way. Like, Cuba, when they start building hotels and these tourist destinations, sure, it's going to take up a little bit of their property. It is going to bring a whole new economy to Cuba. You know who's not going to like this? All the other Caribbean states are not going to like this. Puerto Rico, Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica. They're not going to like this so much. They're Dominican Republic, Santo Domingo, Punta Cana. They're not going to like this so much. But it's going to be great for Cuba. It's going to be great. Love it. I'm not going to get into the details of the conversation. All right, let's. I'm trying to think of where to go to next. Let me check out the chat here for just a moment. Oop, I can hear myself talk. All right. Wasn't Cuba like the linchpin of corruption? Yeah, that's what we're told. That Cuba had a lot of influence over this. I second the CanCon in a kilt petition. Oh, that's my wife. Fucking not happening. Not happening. I don't get it. Didn't Cuba have guards with Maduro? Allegedly. That's what we're told. I got a really interesting phone call this week. You guys got to tune in to Badlands Book Club on Tuesday. I promise you it won't disappoint who I got a phone call from. Completely took me off guard and was a little bit concerning to me. I took it as a veiled threat. The call itself, not anything that was said on the call. What else we got? Classic earmarks. David J. Harris posted about an hour ago that Bibi could have been killed by Iranian strikes. I've seen this. I've heard this. I don't know. There's the AI video. I don't buy into that. Jordan Sather kind of shot that down. I don't know. There's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, and propaganda that's being put out there. So I don't know. Jackie says, I was just talking to Cam about maybe going to the Dominican Republic for Christmas this year. Let's go. You want to go to Punta Cana? Let's go to Punta Cana. Let's do it. You literally said on the show a few days ago you would wear a kilt. I said they're trying to get me to wear a kilt. Okay? I don't have a shirt to wear with a kilt. What kind of shirt do you wear with a kilt? I'm not one of these guys that dresses up for a Ren Fest. I just go there and I like to drink beer and eat turkey legs. All right. All right, so I will cover this story just briefly. New York Times, Bondi is said to have moved to military housing because of threats. Pam Bondi is quietly relocated to one of several military bases in the Washington area, where other Trump administration officials also live, facing threats from drug cartels and critics, including over her actions of the handling of Jeffrey Epstein. One catalyst was an increase in the threats following the capture and prosecution of Nicolas Maduro. According to a senior official with direct knowledge of the situation who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss security matters. That is literally how they describe this source. According to a senior official with direct knowledge of the situation who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss security matters. That's longer than the actual information that's being given. The description of how off this source is. But I digress. Could be a canary trap. We talked about this idea. Is this a canary trap to figure out who can be trusted in the inner circle? You tell somebody different stories. Hey, Pam Bondi is being relocated to military housing. Hey, Pete Hegseth is being relocated to military housing. Hey, Dan Driscoll. Hey, start naming all these people. Well, Driscoll's already in military housing, and I think Hegseth is too. But you start naming all these people in the administration to each individual person, and then whatever makes it into the media, that's the person that can't be trusted. Now, you might not fire them right away. You might not fire them, but that person can't be trusted. And so then what do? You turn around and use that person to your advantage, and you leak narratives to the media that the media is then going to run, and you're going to turn around and squash them like mines in the Strait of Hormuz and 13-minute destructions. Now, on the other hand, this could absolutely be a true story, in which case, good. Pam Bondi, as the Attorney General, whether you like her or not, if she is receiving credible threats, the safest place for anybody in that position would be on military housing. It is very difficult to get onto military bases. So again, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. Could be a trap, could also be very well be true, in which case, good. Bondi also just another aspect to this. If there's threats coming after Bondi over handling of the Epstein files, do you think it's more likely that it's coming from somebody who is pissed off that the files are not what they thought they were going to be? Or do you think it's somebody that is pissed off because they know they're subject of an investigation that's been going on behind the scenes, as me, Alpha, Ash, and so many others have been saying for a long time, that you're not going to publicize an investigation this deep and complex if it's happening? It might not be happening. But if it is happening, a military base housing would be a legitimate place for somebody that's going to bring down some pretty big names. Just throwing that out there, food for thought, not saying it's happening one way or the other. Bondi is the latest administration official to move into heavily guarded quarters at military facilities. Others include Stephen Miller, Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem, Pete Hegseth, and then, of course, Dan Driscoll, Secretary of the Army, and Navy Secretary John Fallon already live in those housings. In the past, it's been very few people that have. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis, who was Defense Secretary, so he lived in base housing. Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State. That one's kind of a little weird. But, could be a little devolution-y. I don't know. Robert Gates, who was Defense Secretary under Bush and Obama, lived in Navy housing. Again, that's not unusual. It says this appears to be the first administration to take such widespread advantage of taxpayer-funded military housing to accommodate political appointees who do not have a direct connection to the military. Let me read that the way it should be read. With the absolutely atrocious and biased and political hack job reporting that we're getting from the Mockingbird media, there are direct actionable threats against these political appointees. And so they're being reallocated to the place with the most security possible for them to live safely. Let's read it that way. Remember, they've tried to kill President Trump at least 3 times. Well, 2 for sure. One time they got a bullet an inch from his brain. This is the first time that they're using military housing. They're going to melt down over them using military. Taxpayers are funding their housing. Yeah, well, taxpayers were funding the Mockingbird media that was pushing out propaganda against these. All right. So the mass shooting narratives are coming back. They're not occurring like they were hoping. It seems kind of interesting. We've got these attacks. Islamic terrorist attacks. This one right here by Fox News. This is the one against the Temple of Israel. An armed FBI agent executed a search warrant in Dearborn Heights in Wayne County. This came after a suspect rammed a vehicle into the Temple of Israel, a large Reform synagogue. What is a Reform synagogue? Can anybody in the chat tell me, is there, I'm not sure what a Reform, if it's like a sect of Judaism. Not entirely sure what that means. Says the suspect was identified as Aman Mohammed Ghazali, 41, allegedly rammed the synagogue and opened fire at security guards with a rifle. Armed security returned fire and shot him dead. During the incident, the vehicle caught fire, filling the building with smoke. All staff and 140 students were evacuated. All chemical agents found inside the truck. There were chemical agents found inside the truck, indicating a possible explosive device. Okay, so first and foremost, great to hear. Nobody died except the gunman. Armed security guards returned fire, saw what was going on, did the hero thing. Good shit. Good shit. Of course, there's going to be the spins that this was a radical Islamic extremist attacking Jews. That's what's going to be the narrative. And I mean, for all we know on this case, that's what happened. Could there have been more to the story? Of course there can be. And I think the proof of that is the Old Dominion story. And we're going to get into that one because that one is the story that just makes you say, what the fuck? Like straight up, what the fuck? All right. Before we do that, though, are we good? Let's see. Yeah, before we do that, let's go ahead and hit another sponsor. And where'd it go? Where did it go? I don't. My screen's like frozen over here. Oh no. Oh no. I had a. Oh man. No, there it is. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about another sponsor. There we go. And I'm excited about this one because I've been taking their products for a little bit. So, want to tell you guys about something not well known, incredibly powerful. It's called Ace Manon. It's a compound from aloe vera that massively supports your body's stem cell production, cell health, and immune system function. And that matters because your body replaces about 1% of its cells every day. As we age or have health issues, we produce cells less efficiently. The thing is, almost no aloe products have Ace Manon because it breaks down after harvest. And you can't get enough from eating raw aloe because aloe is a natural because of its laxative compounds. However, Emerald Med has created a stabilized Ace Manon supplement with the laxative compound removed. It's called Aloe RX. They made it for pharmacies and now it is available to the public. I'll explain the value of Aloe RX. Stem cell injections can have amazing results, but they cost $10,000 to $40,000 per treatment. Aloe RX isn't the same thing as stem cell injections, but it massively supports your own body stem cells production for less than $100. You could literally give your body this treatment for 16 years for the same price as one stem cell treatment. For people who don't need something extreme like a stem cell injection, but want to help their body significantly, this is arguably the best value on the market. The longer you take it, the more compounding support that you have. And if you want to support a company that supports our channel and free speech with ads, check out Emerald Med's Aloe RX. Click the link below to learn more and get 30% off of Aloe RX today. And I can tell you guys, I have now been taking Aloe RX for about a week, maybe a little over a week. I started before I left for my mom's house on Thursday, I think. And I ordered it online. You know, I didn't get it free or anything like that. I paid for it, but they caught it when I, it's funny. They sent me a letter here and they said, we were listening to your podcast today and heard the story you shared of what you're going through and went on to give me some little handwritten note. Look at this little handwritten note. And, very appreciative of that. They sent me some CBD gummies and stuff as well to try, so I'll give that a shot as well. But I'm excited to see what this Ace Manon can do because I've been having some shoulder issues, and I was considering stem cells. And when I saw this ad, I was like, let me try this first. And I said, let's do it. And so I bought it. It's the only gripe, and if you guys happen to be listening, the only gripe I have is it doesn't tell you what to mix it with. And so it says just to take a teaspoon a day. It says don't mix it in hot liquids. So I didn't know like food, water, whatever. So the first night I think I sprinkled it on some food. It's fine. It has a little bit of a taste, but it's not like a bad taste. It's not like it's kind of like more in line with like how aloe tastes. If you've ever eaten aloe, and I know a lot of people don't want to eat aloe, but like I've like had like a bite of aloe before. Kind of tastes like that, not as bitter. It's not an aggravating taste. So now what I do is I just put it in some cold water, use my little frother and mix it up and then shoot it. And then you put some more water in there, rinse the glass, and shoot that. And we'll see what happens. I'm excited to try it. I will keep you guys updated. I did play softball on Monday night, and shoulder felt a little bit better it felt a lot better until I actually had to really make a throw. And then after that, I was kind of sore again. But it's progress. It was definitely progress over to where I've been lately. Okay, so again, thank you to Allo RX and Emerald Med. Some great people. Appreciate the response, the correspondence that we had, and I'll keep you guys updated on how it goes. All right, so let's get into the Old Dominion shooting, and we've got this FBI report right here, which hell yeah, ROTC guys coming through.
I would see deceased.
There were students who were in that room that subdued him and rendered him no longer alive. I don't know how else to say it, but they basically were able to terminate the threat.
So he was not shot.
He was not shot.
He shot 3 people.
Correct. We have information that he shot 3 people.
The one that went.
Okay. So he goes into the classroom. ROTC students, they left that out. The ROTC students, these are, guys that are in college, girls that are in college. I think it's men here though, but men and women that are in college and have intentions to go on to serve in the military after and get commissioned as officers. ROTC students at Old Dominion University subdued and killed shooter who left 1 dead and 2 hurt. This article is fascinating. I think we're seeing a false flag. Again, it happened, but I think this is a false flag. And I think, I think they put out all the false flag information right here in this article. And I'll show you why, and I'll show you an example of another one. Former Army National Guard member spent 8 years in prison for attempting to aid the Islamic State, opened fire on a classroom at Virginia's Old Dominion University on Thursday before ROTC students subdued and killed him. He yelled Allahu Akbar before the shooting, which left 1 person dead and 2 wounded. Of course, you got to get that in there. Muslim extremist. Got to get that in there. Okay, fair. Dominique Evans, special agent in charge of the FBI's Norfolk field office, said that the ROTC student showed extreme bravery. Okay. The campus shooting's being investigated as an act of terrorism, says FBI Director Kash Patel. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Evans said that Jallo, that's the guy's name, Jallo. What's his full name? Does it ever even say? Oh, Mohammed Baylor Jallo. That's his full name. Evans said that Jallo aspired to conduct a terrorist attack like the 2009 killings at Fort Hood. Jallo had pleaded, is Old Dominion a military school? I think it is. It's like one of those cadet categories. It's not a military school, but it's one of the most military-friendly institutions. Nearly 30% of its students are military affiliated, including active duty service members, veterans, and dependents. The university hosts strong Army and Navy ROTC programs, with the Navy being one of the largest in the U.S. ODU is consistently ranked as the top military-friendly school by Military Times. Okay, so it's not a military school, but it's very military-friendly, so that makes sense. Okay, why ROTC kids did it. 30% of them are involved with the military, so 1 in 3 essentially makes sense. Jallo had pleaded guilty in 2016 to attempting to aid the Islamic State and was sentenced to 11 years in prison. He was on supervised release, which is comparable to probation, when he carried out the attack. It wasn't immediately clear why his release from prison had been moved up. Jump down here and let's get the story. Jallo is a naturalized U.S. citizen from Sierra Leone. The Virginia Army National Guard confirmed he served as a specialist from 2009 to 15 when he was honorably discharged. So 2009 to 15, 6 years, is right smack dab in the middle of OEF 2. I participated. That's almost the same time that I was in the military. Pretty much the same time. According to a 2016 FBI affidavit filed in his criminal case, Jallow told a government informant that he quit the National Guard after hearing lectures from radical cleric Anwar al-Awlaki. Al-Awlaki, we talked about this, me and Chris Paul on Friday. Al-Awlaki is the guy that was murdered by Obama I think it was in Yemen. Him and his teenage son. Now, they were both American citizens. They both were executed by a drone strike without due process of the law. Whether you thought they were terrorists or not, as American citizens, we have the right to a presumption of innocence. And I know people might get mad about this. It is what it is. It is what it is. You cannot execute American citizens without due process as the president of the United States. Could you do some dirty backroom shit to do that? Yeah, I'm sure you probably could. Get another country to do it, have one of your assets on the ground do it. Who knows? But to me, that's a big problem. And the fact that his teenage son, and also an American citizen, was murdered is a big problem. A court affidavit. Now, let's get into Jallow's situation here. Now, first and foremost, keep that in mind. He quit the National Guard after hearing lectures from the radical clerk Al-Awlaki. When was he killed? When was Al-Awlaki killed? He was killed September 30th, 2011. So, I mean, look, for Jallow, this could have been his coming moment, where he's like, hey, I'm over here in Afghanistan or wherever fighting this war. My brothers and sisters are fighting this war. He was in the National Guard at the time. And our government just executed this guy right here. I'm not going to pretend I know what he was talking about. Interesting. This is where I think the operation begins on Jallow. A court affidavit recounts a 3-month sting operation in which Jallow, then 26, said that he was thinking about carrying out an attack similar to the 2009 shootings at Fort Hood, which left 13 people dead. Authorities launched the 2016 operation after Jallow made contact with Islamic State members in Africa earlier that year. Okay. Jallow later told the informant that the Islamic State group had asked if he wanted to participate in an attack. He tried to donate $500 to the Islamic State, but the money actually went to an account controlled by the FBI. I would love to see those documents to understand if the FBI was running an account that was allegedly tied to the Islamic State, or if the FBI informant was running an account that was tied to the Islamic State. Because when it says that the Islamic State group had asked if he wanted to participate in an attack, that is entrapment. That is, and this, the reason that there needs to be some critical analysis of this, and I plan on doing this, I'm not going to let this one go. The reason this needs to be done is because it doesn't just happen with the radical Islamic terrorists. It happens with quote unquote white nationalists, MAGA. It happens with, all sorts of different factions that we don't even know about, where the FBI, I mean, look what happened in Michigan with MAGA, with the guys that kidnapped Gretchen Whitmer. The one guy was literally like, I didn't know we were going to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer. I thought we were going out to have beers. And then all of a sudden they take us over here. 6 out of the 12 of them, there were more FBI informants and assets embedded in the group in Michigan than there were people that were conspirators in allegedly trying to kidnap the governor. So this happens. This is not a Islamic, oh, you're fighting against the FBI crushing Islamic terrorism. No, I'm not. I'm fighting against the FBI taking people that otherwise would not have the means or the thought process necessary to carry out an attack like this and coercing them, entrapping them, and enticing them to create an operation like this, to create this. That's what I'm talking about. Jallo then tried to buy an AR-15 from a Virginia gun store, but was turned away because he lacked the proper paperwork. He returned the next day and bought a different assault rifle that was rendered inoperable before he left the store. He was arrested the following day. Now, let's make assumptions on this. So he goes into a gun store. All right. He's been honorably discharged from the military. He is a U.S. citizen. They haven't mentioned any felony convictions at this point. If you're in the military, you've got it, at the very least, you've got military ID. So he goes to buy a gun and he doesn't have the proper documentation. Again, if you could get access to this investigation, I would love to know what documentation he was missing. Did he go in to buy that gun and it got flagged, and it was flagged to immediately deny him and say you're missing documents, and tell him this is what you're missing. Come back tomorrow or later and try again, but bring me these documents. Maybe necessary, maybe not necessary. But then when he comes back the next day, perhaps they weren't ready for him to buy an AR-15. Maybe they thought he was going to buy an AK-47 instead. You know, radical Islamic extremists, right? Buy the AK-47. Bigger round, more in tune with, the weapons they use over in the Middle East. Maybe. Because it says the next day he returned and bought a different assault rifle that was rendered inoperable. Did they already have that AK-47 there ready to sell him, assuming that he was going to try and buy that? And then he pulls an audible and he's like, you know what? Let me get the AR-15 instead. And they're like, oh, shit. The AR-15 doesn't have the fire pin ground down. Shit. It says he was arrested the following day. Inmates convicted of terrorism-related offenses are not eligible to reduce their sentence for good behavior or participation in residential drug abuse treatment programs. So this guy should not have been out. He was out. He was sentenced to 11 years. He was out in 8. And again, how does that happen? How does that happen? I honestly, I think, and again, I'm not trying to defend Islamic terrorism here. I'm trying to push back against the psychological operations that are run against individuals, American citizens, in this case, a veteran. Okay, a guy that served for 8 years, I think, or 6 years, I think they said. Whether I don't care where he's from. I served with people from all over the globe. We had guys from, other countries in our unit, and I love them to death. We don't know any of these details. That's just what the mainstream media tells us. But the little nuanced details, he sent $500 to the Islamic State, who asked him. He didn't go to them and say, hey, I want to do this. And they said, okay, here's what you need. They asked him. And then he donates $500 to them for God knows what. They might have said, we need $500 to get this operation rolling. He's like, okay, I'll fund it. And he sends it to him and it goes to the FBI. This feels like fucking entrapment. This feels like entrapment. Let me go into this story here. Let's get into this story. This is an old story from 2017, August of 2017. FBI new Oklahoma bomb plot suspect is schizophrenic. Mental disorder. Now, this guy, Jallo, he didn't have a mental disorder that we know of, but he definitely had animosity. All right. He may have been radicalized by Awlaki being murdered by Barack Obama without due process of law. I mean, I'm pissed about that. I think Obama needs to be investigated for that. It doesn't matter if Awlaki is a proclaimed terrorist. We proclaim a lot of people are terrorists. A lot of people are terrorists. You still have due process against that. Period. So I'm saying that could radicalize somebody. Like, imagine if the United States government went and took out, imagine if the Biden administration went and took out Alpha, one of my closest friends in Badlands, a brother. What if they went and took out Alpha and just said he is too much of a radical extremist, the stuff that he's been saying, and they took him out. They did that FBI raid. They knew that he had a gun by his bed. They knew that he had outstanding drug interdiction, drug warrants that he was investigating. They knew all this. The FBI, do not confuse. I am saying this very, very boldly. I believe the FBI wanted to kill Alpha that day. He wanted Alpha to come to the door with his gun in his hand, and when he opens the door, has no idea what the hell is going on. They wanted that confrontation, and an extremist MAGA influencer, which he wasn't at the time, but radicalized by MAGA, J6er, calling for violence on J6, shot and killed because he came to the door with a gun. They did not make any attempt to contact him beforehand. That's my opinion. So imagine if the roles were reversed and it wasn't an Islamic extremist, it was a MAGA extremist. And they got this to happen. Remember the guy that got killed, the Vietnam, I think he was a Vietnam vet, the 70-year-old guy in a wheelchair that they killed because he allegedly made threats against Joe Biden, and they shot him in his driveway? The point is this can happen on any side. And this is when you get into, a police state in this regard. And if you don't call it out, if you only call it out when it's quote unquote your side, then that's, not something you should do. So here's the story. Oklahoma City, the family of a man accused of attempting to detonate what he believed was an explosive-laden van outside an Oklahoma bank says he is a paranoid schizophrenic, that the FBI knew it. Clifford and Melanie Varnell of Seizure, Oklahoma, issued a statement late Tuesday that questions the tactics undercover FBI agents used to arrest 23-year-old Jerry Drake Varnell. JDV. JDV. He was taken into custody early Saturday for the alleged plot to detonate a vehicle bomb in an alley adjacent to the Bank First in downtown Oklahoma City. Varnell, who lives with his mother and stepfather in Seizure, about 130 miles west of Oklahoma City, is jobless due to his schizophrenia and does not have the resources to carry out such an act alone, according to the family's statement. The quote, the FBI came and picked him up from our home. They gave him a vehicle. They gave him a fake bomb and every means to make this happen, the statement said, adding that authorities, quote, could not have aided and abetted a paranoid schizophrenic to commit this act. FBI spokeswoman Jessica Rice in Oklahoma City and Assistant U.S. Attorney Scott Williams declined to comment. Varnell, quote, had suffered through countless serious blown schizophrenia delusional episodes and has been put in numerous mental hospitals since he was 16 years old. This is how you groom him. This is MK Ultra in real time. The mental health system has consistently failed us due to lack of establishments and healthcare coverage for a person like him. No, they didn't fail you. They intentionally accomplished their mission, which was to weaponize your child. Sorry, your young man in this case, although I'm sure there's a history of this throughout his life. The Varnells say their son is easily influenced, and they believe a confidential informant who tipped FBI agents off to the alleged plot may have helped inspire it. A criminal complaint says that the FBI sent an undercover agent posing as an explosives expert who could help Varnell after being tipped off to the alleged plot by the confidential informant. The complaint says Varnell allegedly claimed to have experience making small bombs, but was convinced by an undercover agent that the agent should provide the supplies. Ultimately, officials say Varnell was provided with fake bombs, faux bombs, making material. Varnell was monitored closely for months as the alleged bomb plot developed during a long-term domestic terror investigation. So you go back to the Jallo story, and I mean, this has kind of got that, it's got that feel. It's got that feel. They have a guy that's in prison. He's let out early. 8 years out of an 11-year sentence. So he was let out in 2024. So they let him out right at the tail end of the I wonder if he was pardoned. Somebody looked that up. Was Jallo pardoned by... There's no way. There's no way. He was released from prison 4 years early in December of 2024 after serving part of I mean, come on. Come on. He's released 4 years early in December of 2024. Which is after Trump is elected, but before he took office. His early release was due to a standard federal process for good conduct and rehabilitation, not a presidential pardon. But the article here says that inmates convicted of terrorism-related offenses are not eligible to reduce their sentences for good behavior or participation in a residential drug abuse treatment program. So he was not pardoned, but he was let go early for good behavior in a system that does not allow domestic terrorists to go, or terrorism-related convictions to go early. So again, was this guy weaponized for the right time? Was this guy coerced into doing this? We need more details. This is something worth digging on. But the reason I brought up the Varnell story is because I think it is important to see that it's not just Islamic extremists. They do it to all sorts of people. So, again, this all took place in Michigan. Stephen D'Antuono led the entrapment case against the folks that went after, what's his name? That went after Whitmer, Gretchen Whitmer. All right, we can land that there. All right, we are at 2 hours, so I am going to there was one other point I wanted to make on this, and I can't remember. Oh, the last point I want to make. When you look at, and me and Chris Paul talked about this on Friday as well, but when you look at this story here, and you look at the Varnell story, and you look at some of these other stories that the FBI is like, hey, we caught them. The Gretchen Whitmer kidnappers, we got them before they were able to get Gretchen Whitmer. Pat on our backs. We got this guy before he was able to blow up the building in Oklahoma City. Pat on our backs. We got this guy before he was able to go. This is the first Jalo incident. We got this guy before he was able to go and shoot up a Fort Hood style shooting. Pat on the backs. How many times does it happen where they don't get the guy? And was that a pat on the back? Or was that a confidential informant that was pushing him in that direction, except this time the bombs weren't fake, or this time the gun wasn't inoperable? Every once in a while, you got to wonder, do they get more of these people than people that pull it off, or do they allow more people to pull it off and just every once in a while they catch the person and give that feeling of we really need to be here? It's food for thought. All right, let's keep moving. We're going to do like a lightning round here. New York Post, Epstein prison guard Googled him minutes before body found and made mysterious deposits before the pedophile suicide. This is strange. This prison guard, Tova Noel, was one of the Metropolitan Correction workers on that night. Noel Googled, quote, latest on Epstein in jail at 5:42 a.m. 5:42 a.m. She's Googling the latest on Epstein in jail. And then again at 5:52 a.m., less than 40 minutes before her colleagues found him dead in his cell by hanging at 6:30 a.m. 40 minutes before he's found dead, you're Googling the latest on him? Like maybe checking to see if this story's already out? Like, what are we doing here? Then she makes some suspicious deposits, a total of 12 deposits beginning in April 2018 before Epstein was even in prison. And then one for $5,000 on July 30th, 2019. So again, this is just a continuation of the what the fuck with Epstein and whether or not he's still alive. And again, going back to Bondi, everybody's going to melt down. Oh, well, Bondi's not doing enough. Nobody's been arrested yet. Well, it is hard to look at everything that we know now about Jeffrey Epstein and not believe that he's alive. it is hard to look at all that stuff and think that he is actually dead. He was negotiating with prosecutors a couple weeks before his quote-unquote death. He says, I'm not suicidal. You've got this guard looking up the latest on him beforehand. They've got the footage that they released that they had to go back and change. It's been edited. There's a mouse on the screen of what's supposed to be raw footage. It's not raw footage if there's a mouse on the screen and there's a little editing tools up in the top left-hand corner. That's edited footage. That's not raw footage. Well, Bongino and Patel said that there's no evidence. Sure. They haven't seen it. This would be above their pay grade, guys. This would be something that has been done long before they were there. And so when they come out and they say there's no evidence, and me and Alpha have talked about this, they have to say that. They have to tell you just factually what they know and what they have in their possession. They can't go off and do what they did on their podcasts. They were in and well, I mean, they were. Bongino's not anymore. They can't go and do what they did on their podcast and question things to the public. They can question it behind the scenes. And they have the authority at that point to do the investigation. So they can say, hey, why the fuck is there an editing thing up here? Get on that. In the meantime, I got to go tell the public that there's no evidence in here to see this. They had dual vehicles to remove him. They had two vehicles. They had a decoy vehicle. Why do you have a decoy vehicle to remove him? Nobody knew at this point. It wasn't reported anywhere. Why did you have a decoy vehicle? An unmarked, plain white vehicle, and then the black one that's the official vehicle, removing his body. There's a whole bunch of what the fuck without getting into the autopsy report, without getting into the bones that were broken in the body of the guy, which would lead more towards strangulation rather than suicide by hanging. I mean, you just unpack this whole thing. Even what his cellmate was saying, this thing reeks. And again, Pam Bondi is now moving into military housing. Are we about to see some of this come to fruition? We're already starting to see arrests, right? Mandelson's arrested. The Duke is arrested. The artist formerly known, the Duke formerly known as the former Duke formerly known as Andrew, has been arrested. A lot of people quitting. Larry Summers quit. You know, what's the former attorney for Obama that was at Goldman Sachs quit? I don't know. All right, I don't want to dwell on things too long. This is absolutely nuts. We've created now artificial intelligence that can play Doom. We took brain cells and put them on a microchip, and it's playing Doom. Playing Doom down there. Going back to my days as a child. Real neurons playing a video game. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? What else we got? This was kind of an interesting story, especially in the intelligence battle. U.S. judge voids Carrie Lake's actions taken as the USAGM CEO, Voice of America CEO, United States Agency for Global Media. Interesting story here. They're basically saying that because the CEO resigned before Trump took office, there's a statute that requires her replacement to be somebody that was in the agency for at least 90 days before she resigned in order for President Trump to replace. That is absolute bullshit. And that is something, again, this is something I got to start taking notes. Somebody send me DMs, Lion or Don Shell, somebody that is always, always watching. Send me notes on when I say I got to research this more, because I forget. I honestly do. If I don't take handwritten notes right here, I forget. But I need to look more into Jalo, and I need to look more into this law and why President Trump, by law, is not allowed to do this replacement. I think it's an unconstitutional law. But if somebody resigns before Trump takes office, then what they're basically saying is that President Trump is limited to who can replace this person. They have to be in the global media, the U.S. Agency for Global Media, before Trump takes office. That is fucking absurd. That is absolutely absurd. And that is how you perpetuate the deep state, by making sure that the only people that can come into that role are people that you want in that role. Fish rots from the head down. So once the head's rotted, the rest of the body is also rotted, and you just replace the head with the rotted body. So we'll dig into that as well. Yeah, if one of you guys could shoot me that DM. This is another story that came out this week, and this is Doge. This is one of the kids. I think is this actually Big Balls? I don't think this is Big Balls. But Brian Allen, who is an economic and geopolitical analyst for the Allen Insights, says that this is criminal. A Doge lead just testified under oath that he emailed classified government documents to his personal device and then sent them over to Signal under oath. This is not a leak. This is not a whistleblower, blah, blah, blah. It says the same Doge that accessed the Treasury payment system, same Doge that accessed the Pentagon files, emailing government documents to a personal device and routing them through an encrypted auto-deleting app is not a mistake. It's a method. He defamed the shit out of this kid, in my opinion. He says this is criminal. Not this appears to be criminal. This is allegedly criminal. This could be criminal. This is criminal. This is an account with 284,000 followers. Doge lead testified under oath that he emailed classified government documents. Let's play this and somebody tell me to pause it in the chat when he says that the documents he sent were classified documents.
Talked about some of your communications with Mr. Davis, including, in the context of you emailing yourself, I think you were saying, and then using that email on Signal to send to Mr. Davis. Do you remember talking about that with Mr. Robinson earlier?
I do.
Okay. Walk me through that process exactly.
There was a weekly scorecard, as it was called, where we reported on savings across each agency. It was black text in an Excel spreadsheet file. That was downloaded. Steve preferred that to be sent over Signal. Signal is not on a government device, so we downloaded it and sent it to Steve on Signal. Okay. That was the extent of.
So Mr. Davis was not on a government device?
I don't know if he was on a government device or not. I know he preferred to receive the scorecard on Signal.
Okay. Do you know whether Mr. Davis had a government email?
I believe he had an EOP email address that he did not use.
Okay. And you never communicated with him on that email address?
I'm sure I sent him an email or two, but it was incredibly infrequent.
So I understand sending Mr. Davis something off of email based on his request, but why did you email something to yourself first before sending it to Mr. Davis?
There was no other way to get the scorecard that we generated to Steve on Signal.
Okay. You can go directly from your government email to Signal?
Correct.
Why not?
I don't think GSA allowed the downloading of Signal, among many other apps.
Okay. So GSA didn't allow the downloading of Signal? Is that what you're saying?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. But you then sidestep that by sending documents to your personal phone so that you could then use Signal?
Yeah, sure. For the weekly scorecard, that was the process, yes.
And that didn't set any alarms about whether or not you should be using Signal to do government work? The fact that GSA didn't let you use Signal on your phone?
GSA didn't let you use a myriad of softwares that would have been common in a standard business. And so I don't know if Signal is representative of, I don't think Signal is a unique case, frankly. There were dozens of apps that weren't allowed on a government device.
Do you think that there's a reason that the government disallows using certain services on their devices?
All right, we can stop there because it goes on. He never mentions classified information. He never even alludes to classified. Instead, he actually says the opposite. It's his work product. It's scorecards that he generated, scorecards of savings that were weekly reported to us, the people. Again, so, maybe I'm making a bigger deal of this than I should be, but this is a post that now has 2 million views. And it has an absolute meltdown from the left. Now the right is, the right. I hate the left and right paradigm, but the right is catching this. They're smart enough to see what's going on. But I think that this guy I think this guy defamed this kid. I think he defamed this kid. Man, we did get the body cam footage, and I can't play this. I'm running out of time here, but Andrew Colvett put this out. Newly released body cam footage of the March 2025 Doge raid on the U.S. Institute of Peace shows the insane resistance that Trump faced from day one. As Edward Korestein, Big Balls, told Jesse Waters last year, this was the least peaceful of all the agencies to deal with, and that it used taxpayer funds for private jets, an armory filled with weapons, and contracts with former members of the Taliban. Almost like the Taliban's a CIA operation. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all of them. These are grown adults in full meltdown mode because they realized the gravy train was coming to an end. They referred to lawful orders as jackbooted police state actions while refusing to vacate the premises after President Trump issued an order firing them and sending in his Doge team to clean house. What you see in this video isn't democracy. It's an insight into how wild and entitled the DC swamp has grown. Even the officers who were on scene to ensure order became impatient after realizing that these defiant bureaucrats weren't even USIP employees when one said, quote, where their lawyers who were trying to end quote, who were trying to regain access to quote unquote classified information pertaining to quote unquote other cases outside of USIP's purview. George Foote, one of the lawyers there, even pushed to have Trump officials arrested as quote unquote unauthorized intruders. Elon Musk later revealed on X that USIP's chief accountant attempted to wipe over a terabyte of financial data in a desperate cover-up, but Doge recovered it, and it's now with the DOJ for review. Unelected ideologues fleecing taxpayer dollars shouldn't block the people's choice. This is what draining the swamp looks like, and it's horrifying just how out of control it had all become. The U.S. Institute of Peace, the U.S. Agency for International Development, the National Endowment for Democracy, the Voice of America. Anytime you see a government institution that has a name that should be dignified, trustworthy, evokes an emotional response and an immediate soothing, kind of, name there, run. Run. It is definitely an intelligence operation. Okay, wait, maybe not definitely. Most likely an intelligence operation. The other big story I've talked so much about this that I'm going to make this extremely quick.
He has spent $15 million in 1 month for ribeye steaks, $6.9 million for lobster tail, $225 million for furniture. He spent more in the month of September than most countries on earth spend in their defense.
Paul, do you believe
all for himself? Lobster tails?
Do you believe
while our troops are eating MREs?
No.
Lobster tails?
Do you believe the Secretary of Defense is personally eating all the lobster?
Well, he
It's
can't
for
eat
the
16.
troops.
Oh, really? The troops are getting lobster
frequently in theater.
Oh my God!
Troops who are going to war.
Oh my God!
Great meal. You know that.
They're getting lobster. You are so full of it.
Killed over this.
You're
going
so
to get killed
full of
over
it.
this. Internet, do something.
Internet, do something. Yeah, we did it. We killed it. That guy is fucking retarded. There you go. I said it. Sorry. If you have children that heard that, I apologize. I do. But that guy is utterly retarded. There we go. Again, we do get steak and lobster. Perception. Reality. Still delicious, though. That's microwave, by the way. That is totally not. That is how lobster looks on a grill, being boiled in a smoker. That is how it looks when you put it in the microwave. But it's okay. Still like it. The SAVE Act, that's going to go up this week. They are going to. We had Marissa Caldwell join us at the end of Why We Vote last night, and we were talking about the SAVE Act, and she has a clip from Senator Based Mike Lee. I'm just gonna call him Senator Mike Lee. I don't like the based qualifier. I mean, he's a good guy. He's been pretty good, but apparently they are going to have a talking debate before the cloture vote, but not a talking filibuster. So it's got potential, but it's maybe I would put it maybe like 3%. 3%. This was absolutely fascinating. A lot of people caught this. A lot of people have been talking about this. CENTCOM put out this. CENTCOM put out this video. It's a minute 33 long, 93 seconds. And at the 17-second mark, as they are launching a missile, you got it. It's right there. Right there. The Ghost in the Machine moniker, the Ghost Army, 4th Psychological Operations Group logo on a Navy ship. And not the first time. Alpha pointed out that there was a previous, or Chris Paul, excuse me, pointed out that there was a previous ship that had it on a gun battery. So that was kind of interesting. This is coming right after the White House put out Patriots are in control. Patriots in control, not Patriots are in control. I think it was Patriots in control. Very interesting. Now, could that be a hat tip to the Anons out there? Sure. Could it also be a way to, psyop them? Hey, look, if we put this out, they'll go crazy for it. Maybe. Could go either way, guys. Let's be honest here. Could go either way. Oh, you know what we do have to talk about is the New York Post coming out with the Trump stuff, the Trump time traveler stuff. I mean, it's something we've talked about and entertained and had fun with here for quite a while now, right? Quite a while. But let's go ahead and see if I can find it real quick. I did not have this pulled up, but I sent it to my colleagues over at Badlands last night, kind of kidding around. Going too far back. I did go too far back. I think I bookmarked it on my Twitter. Oh, I shared it. That's what I did, so I can get it from my own shared post. There it is. New York Post. Is President Trump a time traveler? Century-old sketches spark new conspiracy theories. And that's, where's that sketch? Right there. Open image in new tab. Scroll down here. And I've seen a lot of Anons. This looks like, I mean, to be honest with you, this looks like a kid's coloring book. Down here at the bottom, it says Homer, Trump. So it's got Homer on the left side, Trump on the right side. Up here at the top, it's got 4590, and that's kind of interesting. It almost looks like a nuclear symbol. Oh, shit, I'm not sharing the image. I'm sorry. It almost looks like a nuclear symbol right above the 4590, but it's not. Post 4590 is a classic. Patriots are in control, or nothing can stop what is coming. Wait, let me get it pulled up. Are you fucking wait. No way. I looked this up last night. Are you kidding me? It's not whatever. It's a New York Post alert. So New York Post posts, is Trump a time traveler? New York Post posts, is Trump a time traveler? Has a 4590 up there in the top corner. And it goes back to a New York Post drop, Game of Thrones, which has Maxwell and Kevin Spacey. Wow. This is the third Spacey accuser to die in 2019. At what point does it become painfully obvious? And it's a Washington Examiner piece. That is fascinating. I looked it up yet. What post did I look up yesterday then? I typed in 4590. Shit. I must have been, I mean, I don't know. It was after the show. I'd smoked a joint, so maybe I was a little bit, I don't know. We'll get back to this tab here. FL, I can't read what that is. F1C5, I don't know. Now, other people have looked up the date, and I will give credit to them. Brad put this out. He says, I remember finding the Sonora Aero Club back in 2019 and being beyond intrigued. It somewhat syncs with the time President Trump's grandfather, Frederick Trump, would have been making his way to Alaska. Did he pass through California during his journey? What else we got? I know there was a couple more interesting ones on my post. Let me go to my post. We've been entertaining this for about 10 years now. Maybe it's under show probable spam. All right, never mind. I thought I had more on that, but I don't. Either way, it's interesting. It's very interesting. There's what was it? 4-10-20. That's what it is. That's what I need to look up. Hold on, let me look this up. 4-10-20. That's the date. 4-10-20. There it is. 4-10-20, which is the date at the bottom of that. It says DEFCON 1, 4-10-20. Fire and Fury, 9 states of class ready to go live, 34 commands live, codes command action, non-nuclear, and then the owl with the 1 in kill brackets. There we go. I'm not a big, I'm not a huge Q guy, so I'm not the person to listen to. I'm sure Josh and Alpha will crush it on DEF CON talking about exactly that. I think we can end here. The rest I'll save for Badlands Daily. Oh, you know what? I did not talk at all about Maricopa, and that's a huge injustice. We're finding out more about what happened in Maricopa County, what they took. So we got to talk about that. Oh, shit. I'm not done. I got more to go. I got some stories I promised I would get to. So Maricopa, they've now seized records, and they did this through a grand jury subpoena. Let me go to Jen Fifield. Just put out the subpoena, or at least what was taken, the receipt of property. On March 7th, Senator Warren Peterson is listed as the name, receipt for property, an imager, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, 7A, 9A, which is a 6 terabyte Seizure forensic images. Now, Seizure is Ben Cotton's company, I believe, right? I think Seizure is Ben Cotton's company. Yes, Seizure is Ben Cotton's company. So that is very interesting. The list includes around 30 hard drives, 8 servers, and 3 video storage systems, which together can hold more than 200 terabytes of data. Just 1 terabyte of storage can typically hold more than 250,000 photos or 500 hours of video. And then that's it. So we'll just leave that at that. So Maricopa gets raided. Again, go into the drops, run back. One of the last drop, not the last drop, I don't think, but one of the last drops. I don't think that was the last. Was it? It might have been the last drop. No, it was 4963, November 18th, 2022. And there's 3 drops since that. Beware of false prophets. I am not a prophet. You are not a prophet. We are not prophets. Focus on the mission. That was in November 2022. Q&A in time was on November 27th. Also, same day. What is coded in your DNA? Who put it there? Why? Mankind is repressed. We will be repressed no more. Information is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Information is power. How do you protect your DNA? There is a war for your DNA. Protect your DNA ascension. Okay. So, Maricopa moving along. We should have some updates on that in the next probably day or two. This was kind of strange. Somebody tell me What do you guys think of this? This is Scott Bessent was on an interview yesterday, and he had to get up abruptly. And a lot of people are saying that he was acting very strange when he came back. So here's what happened.
I listened to you on the...
The president wants you. Sorry, the president wants you.
Oh, okay. Okay. No problem at all. See you shortly, Mr. Secretary.
You can work that in.
Mr. Secretary, I have to say, it's a first, I'm sure a last as well, that an interviewee's been pulled away to go to the Situation Room. How was the president? Was he stressed?
No, the president is in great spirits. The Iranian mission is proceeding well ahead of schedule. And I have to tell you, Wolf, that I've a teenager who's considering military service. And I could give this team my highest compliment, from President Trump to the head of the Joint Chiefs to the Secretary of War. I would say that I would trust my child's life in their hands.
Unless that guy asked Bessent a little bit more than just, is the president stressed, and we're not seeing it, that is a really interesting answer. That is what we call over-explanation. And that is usually, in interrogation and stuff like that, that is usually a sign that you're not being told the truth. I'm just going to tell you guys. I'm not going to, sugarcoat things. How does he go from, you have this emergency message that the president needs to have a talk with you. I smell wires burning. Just making sure nothing's on fire here. We're good. Okay. How do you go from that conversation to that explanation? That you go from, was the president stressed in your meeting, to, my kids are going to enlist and I trust them under this administration? I don't know. I don't think Mag says I'm trying to dodge the question. I don't think it's dodging it. It's over explaining it. So rather than just saying, no, he's not stressed, everything's fine, we just had something to talk about, he goes off on this, no, Iran's going great. We're almost complete. I'm thinking about telling my kids to join the military. And I know, yeah, G. Fonte says he did look shaken or nervous about something. Yes. And I know Bessent is not the best speaker. He's not the best public speaker. He's very kind of awkward, right? That was above and beyond. And guys, I mean, I sit here and I've played hours. Well, maybe not hours, maybe over an hour of Scott Bessent talking on this show. I've heard him answering questions. I've heard him pushing back against contentious questions, all of it. There's something that rattled him in that moment right there. There's something that rattled him. Now, was it, we can speculate, did somebody say, hey, go out there and tell them that your kids are thinking about military service, make sure you make that point, and that you're supporting your kids joining? I don't know. If that's the case, that would be a prelude to boots on the ground. Because that will say, that gives them the cover. Hey, I'm sending my kid to join the military, boots on the ground. I maybe not. We're totally speculating here. But I'm just taking the evidence that we have, what Bessent said, and why he would over-explain and go in that direction. Right? He's a Treasury Secretary. Why is the Treasury Secretary being called into a meeting with the president and then comes out talking about Iran? That's very odd. All right. We'll land that there. I'm not going to speculate anything on that because, it's just one of those crazy things. Here is another crazy story. CBS News, wanted fugitive killed by Dallas SWAT officers worked security for Jasmine Crockett. A man shot and killed by Dallas earlier this week was a familiar figure in North Texas law enforcement and part of the security detail of Jasmine Crockett. Multiple law enforcement told CBS News the man known as Mike King had been using aliases while running a business that placed officers in off-duty jobs. King was killed Wednesday night after a standoff with Dallas police. SWAT said he fled into a hospital parking garage, barricaded himself inside a vehicle, and was forced out by tear gas before pulling a gun on officers. Sources say he was wanted for impersonating a law enforcement officer and claimed to be one while operating off-duty police services, an online platform connecting North Texas officers with off-duty work. Images, let me jump into the post here from Colin Rugg because he makes it more concise. Crockett's security guard had been killed after a standoff with Dallas police. According to police, he was wanted for impersonating law enforcement, fled to the hospital. Quote, multiple law enforcement sources tell CBS News Texas the man known as Mike King has been using aliases. King was reportedly drove a replica undercover police vehicle and used stolen license plates from cars at a military recruiting office. How did this guy get into Jasmine Crockett's security ring? Whether you like her or not, and of course I don't like her. I think she's fundamentally dumb. That is shocking. Go to this reminds me of Minnesota, right? What's the guy's name? What's the guy's name? Volter? What's the guy's name that killed the Anyways, that guy owned a security company and was a very strange figure. Yeah, this makes no sense to me, man. This makes no sense. Why can't I think of that guy's name in Minnesota? Too much information coming at me all the time. Oski Wee Wee says, CanCon, you mentioned the ship Leroy Jenkins. That is the same name of a killer in the TV series Psych episode last night, Gus. Is that a common name? I didn't mention the ship Leroy Jenkins. Leroy Jenkins was a meme from the early mid-2000s of a screen record of playing World of Warcraft, and they were simulating, they were aggregating a plan, putting together a plan, and all of a sudden one of the players just says, fuck this, I'm done, and runs in and screams, Leroy Jenkins, as he runs in, and Leroy Jenkins stuck ever since then. It's a meme, not an actual ship. The ship that went through, they're all sitting there turning their transponders off, and he Leroy Jenkins that shit and just goes right through and no problems. There we go. No, it's not Voltaire. Volter. I think it's Vance Volter. Now it's going to drive me crazy. Vance Bolter. I said Vance Volter. Vance Bolter. Leroy Jenkins. Every show. No, it's not every show is why we vote. All shows are why we vote now. Asawavan. Okay, let's hit one more sponsor, and then we'll get to rants, and we'll clean up with some final thoughts, and we'll get out of here. All right, guys, big announcement. Pickaxe is officially live in the iOS and Android app stores. The Pickaxe app is officially live. If you're tired of algorithmic manipulation, shadow banning, and platforms collecting your data while throttling your reach, this is exactly why Pickaxe exists. No algorithms deciding who sees your content, no data mining, social media that actually acts, well, social. And this is huge for the Rumble community. Your Rumble videos play directly inside the Pickaxe news feed like native post. No redirects, no audience loss, just seamless integration. We've already got major voices on the platform like Diamond and Silk, The Vigilant, Rampage Jackson, Dr. Pierre Corey, Mary Tally Bowden, Children's Health, Shannon Joy, and many more building the communities there. The Rumble gaming community is jumping in too. The Joker, Uncle Pudge, Midnight in the Mountains, Vapin Gamers, Chavez, Flexington, Soundboard Lord, Cat Dog, and plenty more are making Pickaxe their home base. This is about owning your audience instead of renting it from an algorithm. Download the Pickaxe app right now on iOS or Android, or head to pickaxe.com to join. And remember, you are the algorithm. All right. Oh, lucky day for me, the freeze frame. I forgot that it freezes me when I do that. Okay, let's jump into rants if there are any. I don't even know. I don't know. Oh, shit. Did I not do it again? Did I not open the frickin' rants? Because I'm so stupid. I did not. So let me scroll up and see. I don't see any, so I don't think so. All right. I don't think. No, I saw a couple rants early on. Right? Thought I saw a couple. I might have to do this the old-fashioned way because I do know that I saw some rants. So let me do it the old-fashioned way. Go in here. Go in here. I thought I knew how to do this. Rants. There it is. Rants in the last 60 days. All right. Oh, man, I click on the link and it takes me to that. Son of a crap, I can't even read these. Oh, my goodness. How did I not open the API? I know that I opened. I do this every single morning, folks. I do this every single morning on Badlands Daily, and I never screw it up like this. Maybe once in a blue moon. Son of a bitch. Rants are working. One rant. Shit. Thank you, guys. I screwed up big time. Let me scroll through and find them. And there's no place here in studio that saves rants. Oh, man. I feel like such an asshole. Live chat, viewership stats. There's no place to get rants here. Maybe the live chat will have it. Yes, live chat has rants. Okay. So, all right, G. Fontes, you were talking about Ben Schultz from World of Warcraft. Leroy Jenkins. Yes. I don't know if his name is Ben Schultz, but yes. One rant, Liberty Lion. Mags, rants are working. Got to go through here. Oh, look, I can even do donations. Oh, shit. So apparently there were only 3 rants. I thought I saw more. Okay. All right. Well, that is going to do it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys all so much for tuning in. Smash that thumbs up. Share the show out. Deeply appreciate all the support, guys. Continue to grow. I am going to be doing more shorts on this. So the shorts are pretty cool. They can auto-generate, so take those and share those out. Quick ways to get people interested in both the channel here as well as Badlands. You guys can find me, for those that don't know, Badlands Media here on Rumble, Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. I do a daily show. And then I do a bunch more shows throughout the day. So you can check that out, rumble.com/BadlandsMedia. And that'll do it for today's show, guys. So thank you guys all again for being here. Stay frosty. God bless each and every one of you. God bless America. Make the deep state motherfuckers pay for this.